Gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I put them hours in to get prepared now. We play on expert level, don't be scared now. I'ma destroy you when I'm forth, I can tear it down. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down. Cut the fix up with some Xbox babies, put the switch up. See me gearing up for war, don't get it mixed up. I come in peace, kid. I'm bringing commentary and the new releases. I put them hours in to get prepared now. We play on expert level, don't be scared now. I'ma destroy you when I'm forth, I can tear it down. If you ain't tuned into the channel, keep your head down.
Yo, everybody, thank you for joining us tonight on The Fix. We're joined by my buddy in what we call our group, at least on Twitter, the ES squad, even though that's kind of repetitive, even because the S stands for squad. But yeah, don't worry about that part. We got our buddy Crusader here from the TXR podcast that they have. I believe it's on Sundays. Am I not right, Crusader?
Yes, it is Sundays starting at 9 EST.
That's right. And I know you guys had Tim Dog on there as a regular at one point, right?
Yeah, he was a regular until he stepped away from podcasting more recently. He was getting real tired, especially with all of the constant ABK talk. He was getting he couldn't do it week after week.
Little burnout.
So he was getting a little burned out. But he's still around, good friend of the show. Understandable,
good guy. We've had him on a Xbox Infinite and everything like that before as well. Talked with him behind the scenes and all that. Good dude. So man, thank you for joining us. We have Crusader here with us, and of course, Crusader, I want to ask you, and I'll get to my co-host in a second, but and I usually do start with. Let me not break the I guess the streak that we go with. So we have Crusader here as a guest, but we also have, of course, my co-host Daniel McGee.
Hey, howdy, hey. I'm here too.
Yeah. So, Crusader, what have you been up to this week, and what have you been playing? And I know a lot of this recent news has caught your attention, so I definitely have to have you come through.
So I'm going to do the last 2 weeks, because this week I haven't actually been gaming quite as much as I did last week.
He's just been doing nonstop push-ups. He's getting jacked.
I've been doing nonstop yelling at Bungie executives.
He's turning Pennsylvania into Painsylvania.
Yeah.
Brother.
Brother. I platinumed Spider-Man last week. I platinumed the first Jak and Daxter. It was the first time I've played the Jak and Daxter series.
Oh, nice.
That one goes some places. Not the first, the series. Where like all of a sudden it's like Jak X Extreme Racing or something.
Right. Shit. Yeah. Right.
It's like, what happened?
Long time real life friend of mine and a new panelist on TXR, Dots RTS, has been begging me for a long time to play Jak and Daxter, and it seemed like the kind of perfect game to play in between Spider-Man and Alan Wake 2, because I got the platinum in 2 days. And now I've been playing Alan Wake 2. Absolutely love Alan Wake 2. Remedy doesn't miss, except with Crossfire X, which really wasn't their IP. So
we ignore that one.
We ignore that one. Wasn't their IP. It wasn't even like they didn't even like create it, like let alone own it. But they didn't miss with Alan Wake 2. I can tell you that.
I've heard it's like a masterpiece from a few people.
Yeah, it's really good.
I'm like halfway through it right now, and I'm pretty confident it's my game of the year. Like,
Yeah.
like it's great. I spent this whole year being like, oh, there's so many good games, and this one came out like the 11th hour, and I'm like, no, that's the one. Like, I'm pretty sure that's it.
It's probably my least favorite of like the 4 core Remedy games.
Ooh.
But that's like saying it's my least favorite kind of pizza. I'm still getting pizza for dinner.
It's my least favorite child.
Yeah. I really, really enjoy it, but I'm not as big a fan of survival horror. Like, I really dig the atmosphere and the actual horror of it. I'm just not a big fan of like the survival horror gameplay loop outside of like any game but Dead Space, because Dead Space is like almost nonstop action, and the enemies don't feel super tanky in Dead Space.
True. I've heard the tanky thing for the enemies in Alan Wake. Have you turned the difficulty down?
I turned it to the story, and it feels fine.
Okay.
Yeah, but like then at like that point, it feels like there's not enough. Like in Dead Space, you're almost constantly fighting a xenomorph, right?
True.
Or not xenomorph. Why did I say
Necromorph.
xenomorph? Necromorph. Yeah.
You're like halfway there.
Yeah. You're almost constantly
I was
fighting
say, they
a
got
necromorph.
the aliens in
No. You're almost constantly fighting the necromorphs in Dead Space. And like that's like the one thing that like I'm walking around the map going for all the collectibles, and like I'm not outside of like the most recent area that I unlocked, I'm like not getting into combat.
That's true.
Enough.
There's not a ton of combat, at least as far as I've gotten. Like it's pretty it's a lot of just like anything could happen at any time.
Yeah.
Because you get to the Alan Wake bits and there's like all the shadow people, and you're like, which of these fuckers is gonna get me? Which of them's gonna be real?
I love the atmosphere and story. Like I love the SCP style storytelling, the secure, contain, protect style of like you don't totally understand what's going on, but it's so interesting in a way that you don't understand what's going on. And like there's a lot of clarity that comes, but there's still a lot of like it's also like some episodes of the X-Files and whatchamacallit, Twilight Zone, things like that. And it's great. And almost all of the core Remedy games are like that. My favorite being Quantum Break. I really I love Alan Wake 2 for its weird storytelling, and Quantum Break is like that, but there's like TV episodes in it. So like I absolutely adore it.
Right.
And I really my second favorite would be Control, and I don't know if I like this one more than the original Alan Wake or not. I have to think about it. I'll have to finish. I have to truly finish it to know.
Yeah.
And then I've also been playing a modded Minecraft pack called Greg Tech New Horizons. Been playing it since June with a couple of my friends. It is a estimated time to beat 5,000 uptime hours of the server. And that's spread across like the server being up and like things running while you're offline, as well as like everyone who's playing it's like cumulative total of 5,000, not just like one person 5,000.
Gotcha.
So we've been playing that since June. We are probably halfway through the pack, and
Nice.
it's kind of like Factorio, where it's like build automation and assembly lines.
Yeah, so you've been gaming then.
I have been gaming.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. You know, I mean, as far as I hate to say it out loud, but of the Remedy games, I have yet to play Quantum Break.
I mean, that one's
man.
really good. It's really
It's really good.
I hate to say it out loud, but I have not played it.
It's really good. Really, I played it this year.
Yeah. So it's your first time playing it ever this year, then?
Yeah, it was my first time ever playing Quantum Break ever was this year.
Okay. I got close to it several times, and then I just got distracted by other games to play. Yeah,
and I think I played Control and Alan Wake for the first time last year.
Did you do the remaster?
Yeah, I did the remaster. Yeah.
I haven't touched that yet. I don't actually know what they changed in it.
They didn't change much in it. It just packages everything, and it visually just looks and runs better.
I was talking to somebody, I think like, was it last week or the week before on here? And apparently it doesn't have American Nightmare as part of it. So I guess they're like...
No, because American Nightmare was a standalone like Xbox Live Arcade thing. Yeah. But they relisted that on the Xbox Store. You can also play that.
They did.
Yeah.
It's not remastered or anything, but it is.
No, it was not. It was just relisted. I think it might have gotten an FPS boost.
Maybe.
Okay.
I think everything
I don't-
gets
I
like a
don't
little
remember.
bit of a boost just by nature of stronger hardware, but
Yeah. But I think they actually gave it some kind of like actual boost.
ooh.
Like, yeah, I know they did for the original Alan Wake. I'm almost positive. Like, if you
Yeah.
have the 360 version, it has some enhancements.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, here's to trying out games that we should have tried out long ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
That's my motto.
yeah. I mean, you did play, of course, like you said, Jack and Dexter.
Jack and Daxter, yeah.
Which I love, by the way. I love that series. Part 3 probably being my favorite in the series, but yeah, man, I hope that comes back. By the way, I've always talked about that, but no, that's good, man. That you go back and give these games a try, and I would actually advocate for anybody to go back and give these games a try. I think it's like we've moved so forward as far as like technology and advancement in gaming. It's like, can I go back? I don't want to, right?
Yeah, I think in the last 2 years, I have played something along the lines of like 48 Xbox 360 or PS3 or before titles.
It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I think that's about the number.
It's not bad. Oh yeah, no, I need to go back too. That's just a bunch of achievements I'm missing too, and I'm an achievement whore. So I got incentive. But Danny, what's been up with you, brother? What have you been up to, and what have you been playing?
So a lot of the same, a lot of Alan Wake.
Yeah.
And then I've also pretty much the only other thing of note worth talking about is I've been watching that their new season of Survivor.
Oh man, what season are
really-
they on? 82.
45.
Oh wow, I wasn't that
gosh.
far off.
We weren't that far off. It's really funny actually, because I haven't watched most of Survivor.
Yeah.
I started watching it just like on a whim while I was writing a while ago, and I got to like season 15, which is really good. That's the China season. And
China.
which it's a really good one. It's like one of the best, I think, new casts of people, because obviously they have returning people like all at this point.
Right.
But it's that thing where like you watch the old stuff and it's like, oh, there's 1 or 2 immunity idols in the entire game, and then you get to the new stuff, and because they had to like ramp it up every season, you're 45 seasons later, and it's like, okay, so this guy has an immunity where if he doesn't do this thing, then he loses his vote, but he also has this other one where he can get his vote back if he like stands on his head for 10 minutes, and there's just like so much going on, and I'm like, bro, what happened?
Man, listen, I haven't watched Survivor since I had been with my ex back then, and that was in 2000. So, yeah,
that would have
literally
been
23 years ago.
That was like early doors too, because I think the show started like
May 31st, 2000.
Was that season 1?
Yes, and that's the first time. That's
Okay.
the first and only season I've ever watched.
Borneo was season 1, and Borneo was pretty okay. It was the season where people didn't understand it was a game yet, and so there was like no strategy whatsoever except from the one person who ended up winning, Richard Hatch, and everyone
Yeah.
else was just like,
Richard was actually
Where-
very cunning too.
"Let's just hang out."
Yeah.
Yeah, he was really he conned everyone except the IRS, who he did not pay his taxes to, and then went to jail.
Right, yeah.
Um,
Didn't he
so-
pass away, by the way, or something like that? Or?
he didn't. Rudy did. His
Okay.
Uh-oh.
his
Anyone
like
still hear me?
partner.
Yeah, we'll
yeah,
still
we
hear you,
can-
Crusader.
You might have cut out for a minute if you were saying something before that.
Yeah.
My audio just cut out. I apologize.
Oh, you're all right. It's probably an issue with Discord or something like that.
Yeah.
We're no stranger to it here, believe me. We're no stranger to issues.
No.
Okay.
But yeah, Survivor,
What you say?
a lot of fun. There's a new episode I need to watch. Apparently, they do the merge. I'm really excited about it. But it is really funny because you compare like the old seasons to this new one. And first of all, they don't name it anything anymore. It's just like, because the previous seasons, right, like earlier ones, it was like Survivor Borneo, Fiji, China, whatever. Like they named it after the locations. But apparently, when COVID happened, they just like went back to Fiji and then just like hung out there for a while. And they ran out of other things to call it. So they were just like Survivor 41, 42, 43. They're like, oh, there you go. But also, like, you look at the older seasons and it's like all these big buff guys and like models and stuff. And then the new ones, like, all just like soy ass, like weak ass people. And then like one guy who looks like he could do a push up. And you're like, this is a very different game. This is not about like winning individual immunity through push ups anymore. This is about like stabbing people in the back all day, every day.
Yeah. What about any gaming? Have you been gaming?
Just
anything?
Alan Wake all
Alan
day.
Wake. Okay.
Yeah, I've been doing that, and writing has been my two big things.
Yeah.
I've been spending a lot of time writing. Just now that the weather's cold, I always get in the mood to write. So here, that's my life.
You're playing Alan Wake and you're writing?
I am playing Alan Wake and writing. It's a fun combination of like, oh no, what if this comes to life and then kills me?
Yeah, I was gonna say you're gonna get trapped into the what does they call it? The endless
dark
the
place.
dark place.
The dark place.
The lake that's not a lake, it's an ocean.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, as far as myself, man, I had been I actually restarted on Spider-Man 2. I did enjoy it a lot. I had it at a 9, if you remember, but
Yeah.
I'm replaying it now, and now I'm coming down to like an 8.5. I'm gonna be honest, and
Yeah.
it's because I started to be more critical and actually pay attention to what I didn't like. The MJ missions, for one. Sorry, they can, dude. I saw the interview with a guy. He was talking about, I heard people complaints. We know the complaints they had in the first 2 games, and I was like, he's basically like, F them. I'm gonna put it in there anyway. And I'm like, I don't get, like, I can understand you wanting to improve it and try to put it in there for that reason. Say we're just gonna do better, but I feel like you did improve it because it is an improvement.
Yeah, I mean, they're definitely better.
Yeah, they're
absolutely.
way better.
But now she's a Mary Sue, even more so.
No, she's a Mary Jane.
She's John Wick's sister. That's what she is. Like,
She's pretty good.
those damn weapons
I
take
didn't
people
care
out
so much about her
faster
like
than people
having.
miles
Yeah,
do.
I didn't care so much about her like having the gun or whatever.
Yeah.
The only bit that got me was when she got like shot with the crossbows or whatever. And she just pulls
Yeah.
them out. She's like, "Guess we're fighting now." And I'm like, "You're a reporter from
Right.
the sticks. Like, what are we talking about?"
Yeah, it got
yeah,
ridiculous.
so that was a little weird.
It did.
My biggest problems with that game, I think, on reflection, is just like narratively, there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't really line up.
That for me, and I like, the more I noticed it too, like, people would say it's DLC. I would disagree with that notion just because I think they did a really stacked job of the story. Like, it's a lot.
There's a lot in there.
Yeah, it's lengthy. So I'm not going to call that DLC. I'm not going to disrespect it. I do get why people will say, well, it's the same map and all that, but it's added and all that. I'm not going to go into all that, but I mean, it's New York. You can't, I mean, what else could it be? So, I mean, I don't want him swinging around San Francisco suddenly. So, but my thing is, it's like, for me, I think the side missions absolutely suck. I'm just going to be honest with you. Most of them.
There's a couple of them that are pretty good, but
Yeah,
the majority
like
of them.
the Doves out with Howard and.
See, I didn't like that one.
You didn't like? No, see.
No, I didn't like that one at all because they brought that character back and then just like, I mean, spoiler. Does it matter? Like, it's just a one-off thing.
Well, don't
But-
say it
Yeah, I don't wanna
specifically,
spoil
but
it.
yeah.
But it's just like they bring that character back, and I'm like, oh, are they gonna do something interesting with him? Like, no. Oh, okay.
I know some people felt a lot of emotion to it, like on that part. So it is what it is.
I didn't. He was just some asshole who sent me to chase a bunch of birds, and then it was like, oh no, his asshole tendencies have caught up to him. I guess I don't know. Karma's a bitch.
You got the bird
I don't
flu. But yeah, no, besides that, and I think it was the other guy, older guy, Carl or something. I forgot his name. Like, they had some that was like heartwarming, right? But then it's like, man, I'm playing as other people. You know what I mean? I don't want to go into detail. It's kind of like, all right, I get it. It's all inclusive and all that, but it's like, man, no.
You're talking about the
You know.
Captain America mission that they get in there,
Yeah, well, yeah.
where he plays Captain America for a little
Sure.
while.
Yeah, sure.
And then there's the Daredevil bit. Do you see
Absolutely.
this is a weird little side thing, and I guess maybe part of the news rundown, but not really.
Yeah.
Do you see that they patched there was an Easter egg, if you want to call it that, where there was an eviction notice on the Nelson Murdoch lawyer suite or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And they patched it to just like put the sign back on. And it was like, wait, so was this a mistake and you're patching it back? Because the implication at first was because Brian Intihar was talking on like different podcasts, and he's like, oh, maybe that's a tease to a future thing, and then they just like patch it out, and I'm like, or maybe it wasn't. I guess
It may not have. It
Like,
may
what?
not have meant to be like they may not have meant to have it in the game yet. If that makes
Maybe.
sense. Where like it was supposed to be like that when the DLC launches.
Yeah, I could
Might
see
be
that.
my guess.
I'm
Which is
not
really
sure.
funny.
I didn't even know about the eviction thing with
Yeah, there was an
Daredevil.
eviction notice, and the sign was like empty, like they had taken the nameplate out of it.
Yeah. Oh dang, I didn't even see that. I mean, they did a lot of good. I hear, by the way, with Intihar, he was talking about if you play with Miles and you go to the embassy,
The Wakanda embassy.
Wakanda
Yeah,
embassy,
he
you'll
can do
see
the
something.
Wakanda for everything.
he'll do the pose. That's what I had a feeling he would do. Like, he'll do the X or something like that.
Yeah,
I had a feeling. I haven't done it, but I've heard.
he
like,
throws
when
up
I
the
heard him
X
say
because
that.
he's a big X bot.
Yeah.
You can get another character to do it too.
Oh, can you?
Yeah, if you take that character there during a mission when you're not supposed to be able to.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay. Well, I know like Miles has
I
the
don't know
the
which character you're
forever,
talking about.
as
but
he calls
I'll
it,
put
the
it in the-
forever suit. So I figured that it probably would play into
yeah,
that.
you don't
somewhere.
have to be wearing that for it to work, but
Ah,
yeah.
okay. Like, but yeah, just to say to move on, but 8.5 is where I'm coming to, just because, and I don't want that to sound like I'm diminishing the game. The game is still great.
Really?
But if I look at it in its totality, and I'm like being really honest, those side missions, I'm sorry, they're not good. And if you go back to part 1, side missions led to boss fights. These don't do that. These are like, oh, here you go, do this little side mission, now nothing. The only one that does, of course, is, I don't want to say it out loud, but it's only
It's
one.
the Sanctums.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So other than that, it's
Oh, you're
kind
talking
of like
about the fire cultist guys?
that. Well, that one is 2 actually. That one, well, I don't even
No, that
call
one
that
didn't-
one. Yeah, because
that
it
one
didn't lead
didn't
to a
go-
boss fight.
wasn't
Exactly.
a
It
boss
had a
fight,
boss
but
fight in it in
went to a
the
thing.
storyline, but
Right.
it wasn't the final part of it.
True, and it also leads to a future situation that we're going
Yeah.
to see, but it doesn't have a boss fight. But what is that one? Where I can say it? How do I say this without spoiling it?
Just sanctums?
Uh,
Is it?
well, not
Yeah, the modes were the missions were called
Mysteriums,
Yeah,
I guess.
Mysteriums.
Oh, yeah.
That's the only other one. That's the only one I can think of. Other than that, but saying much more, I would give too much away, so I don't want to say much more. But that's the only thing I would say. I didn't like the side missions as much. I hated the Mary Jane missions, although they were improved. I'm not gonna act like it was a drag to play it, because
It wasn't like it wasn't
Yeah.
awful like last.
exactly.
Yeah.
I just didn't care for it, and I feel like if you're gonna have us playing as the 2 Spider-Men, why are you forcing us to play as Mary Jane? Especially when you got Black Cat right there. You could have just had us play as Black Cat. Like, wouldn't that have made more sense? Now think about
No,
Arkham.
she's way too cool.
Yeah,
You're
right.
not allowed to play as her.
Yeah, that irked me a lot.
So I do mine out of 5, just because the website I use to track everything called Backlogged does it out of 5.
Backlog. I
Yeah,
use GG.
and-
Is that different?
It's the same basic thing.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm gonna download
and
this
so
before.
I gave it if I had a bug-free experience, I would have given it a 4.5.
Mhm.
I crashed 8 times.
You crashed
crashed
more
5
than me.
times.
It was 5 for
Yeah.
me too. Yeah.
I crashed 8 times. I had Spider Cube happen, which, to be fair, Spider Cube's hilarious. Like,
I saw you
Cube?
posted.
Very cute. Favorite costume.
Spider Cube is hilarious, and like I hadn't seen anyone else have that happen to them,
Yeah.
and so like I thought it.
Thought you
Then
were
I kept
unique.
seeing it. Yeah.
yeah.
And then I also got like stuck in walls a lot, or had enemies get stuck in walls a lot. And I also
Yeah.
had the backpack bug that was supposed to be solved in the day 1 patch that was not solved, where the waypoint to the backpack just doesn't show up, so I have to hunt every rooftop until I find the backpack.
Sick, dude.
Yeah, I had a bunch
had
of that.
I had
A
a
bunch of
bug
buddies that happened to. Also, I saw 3-Bit, our buddy 3-Bit, with the Fun Speculation team. He posted about that. He had a bunch of bugs. He posted video of it too, where he went through the walls and got stuck inside of buildings and stuff. And so he gave it much lower than I would have, though. I think he gave it like a 6 or a 7. I think he gave it a 7 out of 10,
Yeah.
which is
That
good,
feels-
but that's a little low.
That's what IGN said. They said
Yeah.
7 is good.
Yeah.
All right.
They were
Yeah.
wrong.
Yeah, but just to say, everybody who's here in the chat, thank you guys for being here. I want to thank our mods, Gray Monad. Shout out to you, brother, and Yodani Kuzada. Thank you guys for being here with us tonight and holding us down. Thank you all in the chat, friends and family. Thank you guys. We had Vinny, our brother Vinny, who donated a 99-cent, a generous, to mimic Boom, a generous 99-cent donation with a rainbow unicorn, rainbow-tailed unicorn at least. Thank you, Vinny. And my brother Pete, Jedi Knight Peter, donated $10, an Australian $10. So I believe that's like worth what? I think $1 here in America. No, I'm joking. We're not that far. Thank you too, Pete. Appreciate it, brother. He didn't say anything. I guess that was just him saying, "Here, take this. You need it." So I'll thank you. I'll use it toward, I don't know, Lords of the Fallen or something too.
I'll keep my electric on for one more day.
Right. No, thank you guys for the donations. So we're going to move on into the news roundup. And guys, our main topic for the night is just going to be about the Bungie situation. So most of the stuff we're going to talk about is in the news roundup, and we'll make our way to that. We're not going to keep you guys too long, hopefully, tonight, because I think we're kind of thin outside of that for major main topics, in my opinion, at least. I don't.
No, but that's never stopped us from going.
It's
long.
never stopped us before, and every time I see it, we go like 3 hours. So I'm gonna try to keep us within an hour and a half to 2 if we can do that. So
We'll do our best.
yeah. News
Speaking of
roundup.
which-
That's my okay. Go ahead.
No, you're good. You're solid. First thing up, apparently, God of War DLC / potentially standalone DLC vis-a-vis Miles Morales is on the way, in the works. This comes by way of Tom Henderson, who is reporting on an outlet, Spanish outlet called Area Jugones, who claims that they did an interview and found out that some DLC will be announced this year, possibly at the Game Awards. They feel very confident that it will happen and less confident in when it'll be announced. So maybe the Game Awards thing doesn't happen, but they feel very happy about what it is. Tom Henderson and the Area Jugones, both in their separate articles, do specifically say this DLC could be standalone like Miles Morales. And I'm like, wow, we're just burying Miles Morales. I
Yeah.
don't disagree.
I read that and laughed. I was like,
Yeah,
damn, they
I was
just
like, damn,
trashed it.
all right. I guess we've moved on from that point.
Well, so like I mean, it's not like we haven't
yeah.
called stuff like that in the past. Like Uncharted 4: Lost Legacy was a standalone
Is a
DLC.
DLC,
So
standalone DLC.
yeah, like
Yeah.
Like Saints Row Gat Out of Hell. Like it's the same thing.
yeah.
But yeah, like I think this makes a lot of sense for PlayStation because frankly they need games badly right now.
Yes, they do.
They need to announce stuff, and I think God of War, even if it's just a DLC thing, we know that even if it's like a 4-hour experience, people will hold it up as like this is the next coming of Christ. But really, they just need something, and I think that this could very easily be it. I will say, if this is a standalone Atreus thing, then it can get absolutely bent. I hate that kid.
You know, a lot of people don't care for him. I will
I
say
hate him. I don't not care for him. I hate him. And if it's a DLC where he's doing his own thing and he's hanging out with that girl,
Yeah.
whose name I forgot,
Angerboda, right?
yeah,
Angerboda?
he's hanging out with
Yeah.
Angerboda, the girl with the most irritating shrill scream that she does like 4,000 times to summon her ox or whatever in that
Yeah.
one mission.
Yeah.
Ooh, you'd have to pay
That
me
is
money.
that is the
to play that game.
like bad part of that game.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
distinctly.
That
I
is
really like that
the
game,
only
but that
part
bit.
I didn't like a God of War Ragnarok.
You know,
Yeah.
speaking of that, that's another thing I didn't like about Spider-Man. Like they do that. Sony does the whole let me do the slow walking. Like,
Oh,
A
yeah.
lot. There's a
they
lot of
did that a lot in Spider-Man.
Yeah.
It's like, man, look, this is me getting back to the action. But I didn't mind the character building though. I'll give them that. Because you do grow to care for some of the characters because of that, to be fair to them. But yeah, you know, with this situation here, I would say I liked Ragnarok, but I think 2018's God of War was better, just flat out better. You know, as Kratos would say, be better. I just thought it was better overall, but I will say this makes a lot of sense the way that Ragnarok ends to give it a DLC. I don't know if I would care for Atreus to have his own just main $70 game. You know what I mean? To me, he's not as interesting for that. Like, I think most of us can agree we would rather play as Kratos, you know? So that's where I'm at with that. I think I would rather, so I feel you on that. I don't dislike Atreus like you, Danny, but I do feel like having him as a DLC makes more sense. Why do you hate him so much anyway?
Send that boy to school. Send him to boarding school. I never want to see him again. I hope they leave him in Norway when they go to Egypt. That's what I'm saying.
Well, why do you hate him so much anyway? Why did you just?
He's just really annoying, and I don't really care for the voice acting of him. And he's not fun to play. And his lore doesn't make any sense. Like, I don't know. There's nothing about him that I like.
His lore is kind of all
okay.
over the place a little bit.
He has
I
a
will
cool
agree.
dog. I like his dog. I'm looking for anything to be positive on.
I mean, to be fair though, we don't know the full story of his story. To be fair,
True.
because you don't know how
unless he dies in the next game,
Yeah.
like at the very beginning of the next game, which would be my that's my pitch.
Damn. And this is Danny who's rewriting the DCEU.
That's my pitch.
Yeah.
Just kill Atreus.
Let's get
It
rid
was
of
a
him.
fun. It was a fun bit while we lasted. You know, Kratos is characterized by having dead kids, so just do it again.
Oh,
Uh,
damn. Yeah. And you know that's the thing too. Like I feel like they're doing this finality for Kratos. So I wonder
yeah.
if the case is going to be that they're just going to have Atreus kind of take over for him as the new God of War at some point and get rid of.
Honestly, I
Kratos
think that is
rebuild.
probably the direction they're going, and I'll
Yeah.
be so thrilled. I'll be so happy, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it'll be cool though. But when did they say that's gonna hit? Allegedly? Like they're
They
gonna be the
said
VGAs, right? I think is it.
they said announced
Yeah.
at the VGAs. My assumption would have to be that it would be out in the next 18 months after that. So probably
Yeah.
2024 or
24,
something.
yeah. Maybe
That'd be
like
my guess.
February or March, maybe.
I don't know. I would think that it's going to depend on like what Sony has lined up next year. I would think honestly, if they announce it
gotta
at the
have
Game
something,
Awards, I would think that it would be. Well, so they have. I mean, it's not from an internal studio, but it is their publishing. They have
That Helldivers thing.
I have Helldivers too,
Mhm.
and I mean we haven't heard about it since 2022, but they're also supposed to have the Rise of the Ronin from Team Ninja
Right.
at
Is it the
Koei
is
Tecmo.
that the one that's a mobile game, or am I thinking of
No,
something
no,
else?
no. This is the like it's a Souls-like. It's
Yeah,
from the
okay.
Neo team, the team that made the Neo games at
Yeah.
Koei Tecmo.
It's basically their own version of what we got with what was the name of that game?
Wallong?
Wolong, exactly. Like when they
Wolong
is
announced
really
it at
good.
the
I like
same
that.
time. Yep. But I think I will say Rise of the Ronin looked a bit more appealing to me from what I saw when they do it.
It'll probably be deathly hard because
Yeah.
like Team Ninja is known for making like incredibly difficult video games.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
I
the
didn't think
Neo
Wolong
games
was
are
that
brutal. No, so Wolong was made by Koei, but was it Team Ninja?
It was Team Ninja. It's the same guys.
Yeah, Team
Okay.
Ninja. Yeah. Yeah, because they announced
Yeah.
them both at the same. I remember them showcasing
Okay.
both of those. Yeah. And I was like, oh, I wish we could have got Rise of the Ronin. I mean, I'm sure it might eventually come to Xbox, but
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. But what else did we have
Yeah,
in the news, Danny?
So, in other DLC news, the Liza P director, Ji-won Choi, put out a video where he was thanking everyone for 1 million in sales, and he teased that they were going to do a DLC and a sequel, by which I mean he said, and I quote, "Our highest priority is developing the DLC and working on the sequel." So I don't know why all the reports are like, "Oh, they teased it." No, he said it. It's happening. It's happening.
Yeah,
I
I-
haven't played Liza P yet, but apparently the way that game ends, it was already pretty apparent that that was going to be the case. So
It's probably teased because they didn't like show it all. They're saying teased because it wasn't shown off with like
Yeah.
an official trailer. It was just like
talked about.
pictures of the DLC.
he just like said it in passing, like he's teasing you.
Yeah.
Like you have to wait for more information later,
Ah.
suckers.
Showed a little
Or-
thigh. Yeah, that's all
Yeah.
you're gonna get. Yeah.
Ji-won Choi known to have good thighs, so
Right.
I understand the
I-
why you would do that.
I haven't had a chance to get to Liza P yet
No.
either. Chat,
That's
by
my
the
next
way,
stop after Alan.
yeah, that's kind of like where I feel I want to go. But then I got that, man, and I want to get to Lords of the Fallen 2. Then I'm hearing about RoboCop, and I'm like, I might give that a shot, although it didn't score extremely well. It's roughly like a 7, though, right? Roughly, it's like a 69 or something like that, a 68. So, but I'm, RoboCop rather. Then I just got a bunch of games I want to try to get to. But chat, have you guys tried out Liza P? What's your thoughts on it? What's your rating of it? Give us that in the chat.
Asante in the chat says the people who have played it keep putting it on their Game of the Year list, and I
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
I know that I've seen Mr. Matty Plays. He said on Defining Duke that it's probably his Game of the Year. So yeah, apparently it's really good.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the wonderful Gene Park from Washington Post absolutely adores it.
I
Yeah,
gotta get around to it. I'm
Yeah.
a big sucker for Souls games. I've played the vast majority of them, and most of them are bad, like the knockoff ones. But this one
typically, yeah.
looks very promising.
Yeah, I've heard nothing but like positives for Liza P. And shout out to our brother K Asante in the chat, by the way. But yeah, like I've heard nothing but positives for this game, and it seems like it's an ever rotating thing of game of the year for people, right? Because now, of course, we're hearing Alan Wake. People are like, oh, this is the game of the year by far. But Liza P was getting that same kind of love at a point. So yeah. So I'm happy for the DLC. That's pretty quick though, but it also kind of brings into mind at least like, what's this cut content? Because it doesn't that kind of play into the back of your head a little bit.
Honestly, though, because it's like a relatively small team, I think I'd be okay with that. Just
Yeah.
because it's like, oh, we had to cut this content, but then the game ended up being way more successful than we thought it would be, so we can actually finish it. So like, I understand it. Depending on how much they charge for it, you know what I mean? If it's like a $30 DLC or something, I'll be like, I don't know, but I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it because that's the independent version of what happened with Psychonauts, where they got acquired and they're like, all of a sudden we have all this money, like we can add that stuff back in here. We can put those boss fights back into this game.
Yeah.
but I guess because they're independent, it makes more sense for them to sell it again. Like I
Right.
can't hold that against them.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad it's good to hear, by the way, like good games do well. So I'm happy for that, and that it being in Game Pass, it also erases that little stigma people tried to run with, and games, Game Pass. Of course, now they moved the goalposts on AAA games, but then of course we saw what happened with Starfield, so now they can't use that as much. So but Kay said that but come on, bro, Umbra. He says if RoboCop was more than the 7, that's a weird thing. That game is an amazing 7, but a solid 7.
It's odd 7
in the smiley face. Yeah,
it does look good. I just I got so many other things I want to play first.
yeah, I gotta try it out. Scott C said Liza P is hard, even on the From level. Okay, yeah, hey, I know Pete is big on those types of games too, on Souls types games. So yeah, and he's playing Lords of the Fallen 2 right now, and he's loving that. So I just got a lot to get to, man. Also, I got that Jasant I want to get into as well. Have you guys had a chance to touch that? Yeah,
I have not.
Yeah,
and it
I've
scored
not
well
touched
too. So like, Game Pass is the gift that keeps on giving. But anyway, what else did we have in the news?
They added a forge mode to Grounded. This is a pretty fast one here. It's basically just exactly what it sounds like. You can craft levels and add AI. Apparently, there's no limit to the number of objects you can put into it, which makes me think that at some point it'll probably affect performance pretty heavily.
Yeah.
No.
But I guess they're just like, it's your map. Mess it up if you want.
That's pretty dope.
But it also comes alongside this huge update that has a bunch of like system changes and improvements and stuff. So it's pretty cool. I've seen one or two things come out of it, just like really fast things that people slap together, where it was like an arena or something. It looks cool. I'm not a survival game guy, but I'm happy for the people for whom they are.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. Also, it's good just to see like a lot of these Xbox game studios that keep building upon what they already had. I mean, we see it with Sea of Thieves. We see it, of course, with Grounded here and other games too, like Minecraft, etc. So that's pretty dope to see that they keep building upon these games like that, man. And Grounded is it still held down by like 11 devs or whatever, 13?
I think
It's a very
16.
small team.
16 now? Okay. So
Yeah.
they've grown a bit, but that's pretty impressive. So I mean, kudos to that team and holding it down like they do at Obsidian. And there's Obsidian, right? Yeah, that's Obsidian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, that's pretty cool of them. I mean, I think it bodes well too that passion like projects like that help ran by a smaller team could not only get a green light, but also become like a fan favorite. And so I mean, I think it bodes well for what we'll see in the future for other games and from Blizzard and things like that, because I expect stuff like that too from them. So
I mean, I know for a fact that Colt Eastwood was playing Grounded like
2
minutes before we started,
Colt-
before we went live.
Colt is always on that. I think he plays it with his family a lot, so Colt is on there heavy.
That would make sense.
See, for me, I told you I'm a coward when it comes to that type of stuff. I see a spider running at me, I'm leaving everybody behind. And you can ask Risket and Pete. I left all of them. I'm like, listen, and I'm like the black guy in a horror movie. I saw the leaves moving, and I'm like, hey, y'all don't see that? Y'all don't see that? You don't see that over there? Those leaves are moving. Oh, come on, bro. It'll be all right. Come on. We're going to get some supplies as Pete and Risk.
So is this a specific spider thing, or
It was
do you
that-
not play survival horror like?
No, I
any
play
kind of
like
horror games?
I play some. I don't play the psychological type horror games. I feel like I'll be screaming.
So not Alan Wake.
Yeah, well, I will play Alan Wake, but I won't play it at night. I'll be playing it in the morning. I'm a coward when it comes. I'm just gonna be honest with you. Like I'm a coward when it comes to those types of games. But like survival horror, no, I'm not scared of those. Like Resident Evil, those don't do anything to me. But like mental types, psychological types, oh no, thank you. I have no interest in that. But for Grounded, I remember just seeing the leaves move, and I'm like, hey, isn't that indicative of doesn't that mean that's a spider right there? And like I'm new to the game. Hey guys, you see that over there? The leaves are moving. They're moving heavily. And they like, oh, it'll be all right. But you're gonna go ahead and head over here to the juice bar or whatever, that juice stand is over there by the lake. And I'm like, guys, that thing is moving heavy. And they kept going. I'm like, I'm going back to the base. Sure enough, all I hear them screaming like, the spider! They're getting killed. I'm like, yep. I ran off. And they come and save us, Umbra. I'm like, nope.
I told you.
I told you.
And what happened? Exactly what I said.
Exactly what I said it was. Yeah, that's what you get. Listen to my black instincts. It's like my spider sense. Yeah. That's what you get.
That's so stupid.
What else do we have?
Okay, so Cliff Blazinski has been making the rounds this week on socials. He says that Gears needs a reboot and that he wants to consult on it. And I think I agree with the caveat that they put out 6 first. I think that they should put out number 6 first.
Absolutely.
And then after that, you do a reboot. Why not? I think
Yeah,
it's about time. Maybe a soft reboot. Like, I don't know if you want to do it again and have like, here's all the same characters again. But like,
that's where I'm torn at, right? And Crusader, I do want to get your thoughts on that too. And all of you, both of you guys. But my thinking is, yeah, we could have the soft reboot, right? But
yeah,
do we go back to Marcus and his team? Yeah, like how does it work
I don't
for
need
us? That's what I'm wondering.
I think you go someplace else, maybe a different team, because it's you do like a different reality. You don't necessarily need to worry about like do the Star Wars. This is like the only positive that I'm going to take from Star Wars, from Disney Star Wars. But do this like Disney Star Wars thing where it's like, hey, all those Legends things, they aren't canon, but you can consider them canon unless we go directly against them. Like everything is canon until it's not. So just like do a soft reboot with a different team that's somewhere else. And
that's not a soft reboot. That's a hard reboot.
Yeah,
soft reboot is within the same universe. Well, it's within the same universe. Just usually a time jump.
Yeah. The only problem I guess with like, I mean, you're right. The only problem I see with like doing just the soft reboot, I guess, like, is that if you read the books, which due to my own obsessions I have, there's not a lot of people in that world. So there's not a whole lot of other places you can go while falling within the old canon.
They can do it like 1,000 years in the future.
They could do way in the future or something, or they could do, I don't know, they could drag out more like close to E-Day and do stuff back then, because they do a lot of time skips, where like the books cover, where it's like, hey, we're gonna hang out on this island for a while, was one of the books, and so like there's definitely time there that they could do. I don't know. The thing that has me a little bit concerned is that other things that Cliffy B has said that he wanted to do was make it more of a horror thing, which I wouldn't mind. I love that.
I like that thought.
And 2, he was like, I also wanted to do it first person
shooter.
Like, don't do a first person.
Don't want that.
No, I don't need another first person shooter from Microsoft.
Agreed.
This is their third person one, and it's good, and we love it that way.
Not only is it
so
good,
it
is the pinnacle of third person shooters. Why would you switch that to first person?
Just leave that how it is. We're all good. We're all happy.
Agreed.
But otherwise, I think he's got some ideas. I will say, I don't think that he should be like the director for it or anything. Like
Not at all.
He did the first one.
No, he wanted. Cool, didn't he say he wanted to be like consultant?
He said
that's
what he said. Is he wanted to be like consultant.
Yeah. No, I would be all for that, to bring him on as a consultant. And I still have fun memories of meeting some of the team back in here in Chicago, back in part 1 when they brought it here at the theater on Illinois Street, and they had it on a big screen there, and I got a chance to play it with a few family members and stuff. That was really dope. You know, we played some multiplayer maps. So I have a fun spot in my heart for Gears. I mean, Gears 3 is still my favorite in the franchise. Love the story, love the characters. But my thing is, though, I don't want a reboot of that, like you said, Danny, and have to replay as Marcus.
I don't need those same characters again.
I agree. And I love Marcus, and we all love those characters, but I just don't want to go back to that again. You know,
like if you want to do a remake and do that again, sure, whatever. Do it like in the Resident Evil style of like it's a remake, but it's a whole new thing. Sure, cool, whatever.
Right.
I'm fine with that too. But if you're gonna do a reboot, I want different characters.
Yep.
They can be like tertiarily related, like maybe because during like the first 2 games, I guess Anya was their like contact at the HQ.
Right.
So if you wanted to have some touch point, like they could also be a team that was like served under Hoffman or like had Anya as their consultant or whatever.
That sounds
you could do that. But yeah, I don't need Delta again.
That's what I would do is, like you said, I would experiment with new characters. I would still keep Marcus and the team around. They would still be there in the background somewhere. It would just be a different, piece of the lore. I wouldn't get rid of what we had already. I wouldn't even call it a reboot. I would call it a more different focus. Like, they could focus on it being more horror aspects and such. Like part 1 was good with that when we first came across the Berserk, and it was like, oh man, what is that? And it's you hear the scream,
or like the wretches or whatever.
Exactly. So like I'm with that. Make it more gritty, make it more scary, more serious, and how you can die in one hit from the Berserk. do that, and make it more linear. Like they could do that too. But I feel like the mainline series still should be what we have here going forward with Cat and team.
Yeah. Well, we got to finish 6. That's like
that. They do have to finish that
before
too.
anything else happens. 6 has to come out. They left it on a cliffhanger, and I don't want them to just be like, "Oh, well, we're moving on."
I agree.
Like I need I need that 6th one out, and I feel like they've been working on it for a while, so they're probably already pretty deep into development on that. If I had to guess,
if I had to guess, I'm going to guess it'll land in by 2025. I would imagine.
I hope so. We'll definitely hear about it. My guess would be we'll hear about it next year.
Yeah,
I don't know when.
For sure. I'm pretty sure we'll hear about it
I think we'll hear about
at their E3, if you will. I'm doing a quotation fingers, but
yeah.
No,
it's still E3 to me, damn it.
Yeah, right. Listen, I still love Coalition. The Coalition doesn't get enough love, in my opinion. And I thought Gears 5 was underrated. Gears 4 I thought was about fair. I think Gears 5 though is underrated as hell. Honestly, I think that deserved more love than it got, even from the community. I think that they didn't give them enough love. So I trust
because I remember that year. It was another year kind of like this one where a lot of games kept coming out.
Yeah.
Like kind of broken, or they had different sections of them that just didn't work at all.
Mm-hmm.
I remember being so impressed that Gears 5 came out and it had this whole open-ish world, but it had this whole campaign, and then it had all of its content. It had horde mode at launch. It had all of the multiplayer at launch. I think they added more stuff later even. But all of that was there day one, and it all worked, and it was all fun. I was so impressed that just like everything was how it was supposed to be, because it was one of those years where nothing came out the way that it should have.
Yeah,
I think it was my game of the year that year. I might be misremembering.
I can't remember.
It was definitely
myself.
up there.
Yeah, I can't remember what mine was that year. But no, I remember arguing with some guy. Like, look at the media, how they gave this. And he was like, "Well, you think it's the media?" I'm like, "Hey, look at the score. This doesn't even add up." Whatever. Anyway. What else do we have in the news?
Digital Foundry is calling Alan Wake 2 the first true next-gen game. They're saying that a lot of this, and this is about to get technical for a second, they're saying a lot of this has to do with the combination of the Northlight engine combined with their really masterful, apparently, use of these new mesh shaders.
Yeah, I can explain that.
That would be great, because I only vaguely understand it.
So when you're rendering 3D stuff, you know how everything's made out of a bunch of triangles, essentially?
Polygons, yeah.
Yeah, right? So when you're rendering groups of them, you're basically you're rendering what are called primitive shaders, right? With mesh shaders, you can actually treat it as like a giant mesh, and you can break up the mesh, and you can, like, even with like one object, you can choose to only render parts of the object. This is very different than what's called the old primitive shader pipeline, which was like the first way we started.
Shaders.
Yeah. With mesh shaders, it's basically looking at the hardware we have today and basically seeing that it's a bunch of very weak cores, right? You have like a ton of computing power in a graphics card, but we're not really using it optimally. And so you can make it so that, like, if half of an object is like behind a wall, you only render the object that's within line of sight of the character and maybe a little bit outside of that in case they make a sudden movement. And what this does is it really saves on your rendering budget so that you can render far, far, far more complex polygons with far, far, far more triangle or the like vertexes and stuff in your scenes.
Yeah. And you see that immediately in Alan Wake.
Yeah.
One of the first settings is this really dense forest, and then right after that you're in I think it's supposed to be New York, the dark place when you're Alan.
Yeah.
And everything there is just like so well rendered and so well realized. It's genuinely the most impressive game I've ever seen.
Oh wow.
It's been a technology that's been around since the 20 series graphics cards came out.
Yeah.
Have they just like not been using it well?
It's just the first game ever on Xbox to actually do it.
It's the first game ever to launch with them as a native feature.
Yeah.
In general, even in PC gaming.
Oh wow, even with PC.
The PC gaming has had some games add it, only a handful, but add it after the fact.
Yeah.
This is the first game to ever release with mesh shading support. At least that I'm aware of. There might be some weird indie somewhere that did, but like this is the first major game to do so.
You didn't hear about Banana Boop?
No,
Um,
bro,
They
Banana Boop had them mesh shaders day one. Best bananas I've ever
The-
seen.
right.
I believe the first game that ever had them implemented in general was a Chinese MMO called Justice.
Justice.
I think is what it was called, and it was like a marvel at the time because they had like
Uh,
Good
a
play on
million
words.
a million polygon or like a million triangles rendered on the screen at
Yeah.
4K 60 on a 3060 Ti.
yeah.
Um,
Well, so you're saying that
it's-
this was a sorry to cut you off, but this is something that I've been curious in for a while. So this is something that has existed in some form or another since the
Mhm.
20 series cards, and now we're up to like 40,
Yes.
going into
Yeah.
probably 50 pretty soon. Or in the
Number
next, like,
one,
year or two,
consoles
at
didn't
least.
support it. The PlayStation doesn't
Yeah.
actually support it.
So
Um,
so is it normal? Okay, because here's my understanding, right?
Yeah.
Because PC is always going to be the high end, but it's like
Yes.
the number of PCs, the percentage of PCs that are in that actual high end is much lower than the number that is
Correct.
like way down below. Because I
Correct.
know that when this came out, people were upset about the not required
Yes,
but
because
recommended specs for it, because it was
yes.
like you have to have something from this decade or
the
something.
the default was a 2060, though you can play this on a 1070, 1080 just
Yeah.
fine. You have to have a
Yeah.
little bit more RAM than you normally would. You have to have a
Digital Foundry said the worst thing about playing it on a 10 series was, I believe, when you go to the mine place, it drops to
Yeah.
like 15 frames or something.
Oh wow.
yeah. There's
Um,
the performance impacts are heavy.
Is that
Because
more
the performance
so on,
gain is massive.
is that
it's
more so on
massive.
Xbox or PC or a PlayStation or on both when it happens?
So PlayStation actually plays it pretty fine because PlayStation has a lot more brute force than like a 10 series card does, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
And so like the PlayStation plays fairly okay. It does drop to like 47 frames in some areas,
Right.
which is still within VRR range. It's just not very nice.
Yeah.
Um,
Of
And,
course, with the TVs
but-
that can handle it, like my OLED, of course. But
right.
Humble brag.
Right. I had to throw that out there.
Most I play on like on monitors in my TV, so like I everything I have has VRR support.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it at this point.
Slight humble brag. But yeah.
Well, no, because like I mean, at least in the monitor space, monitors have supported VRR
For a while.
forever. Like we're
Yeah.
talking like the last 8 years.
Right.
I need a new
Um,
monitor. I just bought a new computer, like literally a $2,700 computer, and my monitor is like, it doesn't even matter because they're plugged into monitors from like
yeah.
forever ago.
Right.
And I'm like, like I took it and I plugged it into my TV because I have a LG C1, so I took it out
Nice.
and I plugged into that for a little while, and I was like, damn, this is pretty cool. I'm never gonna probably do this again. Wow.
Right. The mesh shaders are pretty much why the performance is like locked on Xbox.
Mhm.
Yeah, they were saying it's
Um,
pretty much a locked 60
yeah.
My
or 30
question-
if you're in the
My question would be this,
quality.
and I see Kay, by the way, mentioned that the most popular cards on PC don't support it. Still, 20
Correct.
series cards aren't the most popular. But
No.
my thing is this: why is this the first game to use mesh shaders at
So-
least at launch for Xbox and not first party? That would be
Mesh-
my question.
Number one, Unreal with its Nanite and Lumen.
Hmm.
They kind of do a similar thing, and they're utilizing like the mesh shader cores, but they're like it's being done within the engine, and it's not using mesh shaders in quite the same. It's not using that same kind of API technology, but it's doing something similar.
Hmm.
So like Unreal 5 games, really, you're not going to see mesh shader support in, and you're not going to like because they just render it. They're also doing something differently in their rendering pipeline. The reason why you haven't seen mesh shaders like at all in general is because it requires you to completely redevelop your rendering pipeline, like at the engine level.
Oh,
Yeah, apparently
It's a very intense change.
I
yeah,
see.
apparently because Remedy uses a combination of Unreal and their Northlight engine,
Yeah.
and apparently their Northlight engine is what's doing a lot of
Yes.
the heavy lifting on that front.
The reason why you haven't seen anything on Xbox is, well, number one, that like no one was using the technology in like 2021, like no one, right? And like again, it's requiring people to go into their engines and completely overhaul how they're doing their rendering. So like the only game you may have seen it in would have been Halo Infinite, and
Oh, 'cause they made
gestures
their
at the
own thing
technical
for it.
mess at Slipspace, like
Yeah.
at launch. It's not that like Slipspace is a technical mess. Actually, it's more that like it's very cumbersome to work with. So I'm not shocked that like they didn't jump the gun to redefine how they are rendering shaders, because like that's not an easy thing. That's a very it's like how do you hire an expert in something that is like an emerging technology, right?
Mhm.
You have to make the experts in your own house. And yeah, it's otherwise what has really released from Xbox is first party that would use it. Maybe the Forza
Yeah.
Tech. It's interesting that Forza
Of course,
Tech
those
hasn't
look-
implemented, but
Those
again,
look great even without, so I don't know if
Yeah.
they're necessarily like needed. But-
again, you're talking about ripping apart the pipeline without being able to just directly hire for people who are doing mesh shaders, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a reason this technology hasn't taken off despite it being so cool, and it's because like like a lot of the places are R&Ding stuff in house. It just happens that Remedy has hit the market with it, right? That they've R&D'd fast enough.
So do you think this will push more people to
Yes.
like when they update their own proprietary engines, that this will be a thing that they'll probably be looking into?
They'll
Because this
have to.
was something
Almost have to.
I know there was a really fun thing going around Twitter where there were someone at Digital Foundry, I don't know their names, but the older one,
Richard Ledbetter?
probably, he was like, I don't know that anyone would have guessed that it was mesh shaders that were going to make the big distinction between, you know, what is this new generation of video games. And then somebody had you know, probably for fanboy reasons, but had edited it to like all the different slides from the Xbox thing that was like, and mesh shaders. It would be really cool for it to be a thing that we had. So it's cool that this is a new technology, and I guess I'm glad to see, well, not a new technology, but you know what I mean.
I think
I
no
just
one
think it looks
guessed
great,
mesh
is
shaders
basically what I'm coming at.
because mesh shaders fundamentally, by existing, don't make a game look better.
No.
Right? It's how you implement like ray tracing legitimately like shifts how you how like lighting works in general, right? Whereas implementing mesh shaders doesn't actually change anything about your 3D model. You actually then have to go and design your 3D models to have more polygons, and then you have to actually cut them apart into the proper meshes and then write the whole pipeline so that you're rendering more efficiently, right? So like when you think about it, you don't really think about that as you think about it as that as something that's just happening, right? But like with Remedy, it happened very suddenly and created like insane models for the game, an insane density of models.
Well, I mean, I look at it a little different, I suppose, because the mesh shaders are going to improve the polygons, not the polygons, the polygons that can be used for a model, though, right? So technically, it does help it improve how it looks.
It does, but like you add ray tracing to a game, and it fundamentally just by adding just by calculating the light source with like calculating its rays,
right?
Yeah.
It will make it better.
So
By
are you
taking the same
saying-
game and changing using from primitive to mesh shaders, you've actually done nothing. Maybe you'll get a little bit of a performance boost, but you haven't actually. You have to fundamentally change the design of the game in order to truly incorporate mesh shaders.
So it has to be something that you're like looking at from day one.
Correct.
Which makes sense.
Yeah, you have to do it very early.
So is this something, because this was my understanding of it, and I don't know how accurate it is. But so it basically makes, because of the way that you can like change where the polygons are and where they render and stuff, it like makes geometry of the thing more accurate. And so then when you put that in tandem with the other technology like ray tracing and all these other lighting effects, it makes that look more accurate.
I wouldn't know that so number one, it allows you to use more complex for the same performance. It allows you to use more complex models. The more complex the model, the more detailed the model is, just in general. Right? Like Lara Croft on the PS1 was like 10 polygons, right?
There were 2 very large polygons.
Yeah, right. So like the more vertices you add, the more accurate the model becomes, right? The more detailed it can become. What you're
And so-
doing here is you're allowing more of them to be on the screen at once, and you're allowing more of them to be on the set at once, but not rendered because they're not in view of the camera. So
Cool.
you're making it so you can literally just have a more detailed scene at the same budget.
Right.
Does that
okay, so
make
this
sense?
is more. So this isn't about a higher level of accuracy. It's about reaching a higher level of accuracy under the same workload.
It's basically using your GPU more efficiently, using the resources that you can actually run the calculations on. You're essentially just making it more efficient to run those calculations so you can do more.
Right. Okay.
Does that make
So-
sense?
Yeah. So I'm now envisioning this
Like,
as who's that lady who would come into your house and tell you to throw all your shit away? Who is that lady?
I don't remember.
Mm.
She's like, I'm imagining this as the version of her for the engine, where it's like, you can't see these polygons right now. Do they spark joy? Get rid of them.
Yeah, the modern
We can make this run a lot better. I promise you.
modern GPUs doing calculations with primitive shaders is the equivalent of having a Ford F-150 pulling a kid's like toy wagon behind it.
Yeehaw, motherfucker.
Right, mesh shaders makes it so you have like an actual load on. You're putting a better load on the thing.
Right. Okay. So I see Kay spoke on it too, and Kay would be perfect to speak on this. He said, well, mesh shaders aren't about the output; it's for resource optimization. The Series S will be king all day if mesh is the default method. So yeah, you have to build it with it in mind, as he says too, as you pointed out.
Yeah, if you're not developing with mesh shaders in mind, you're actually going to get a very sporadic performance increase because it's really going to depend on where your things are very dense, like in front and behind each other.
Mm-hmm.
Where you can get performance gains versus if you're designing for it. Yeah, like a forest. But like if you're designing for it, you know what your budget's going to be. So like if you implement mesh shaders into a game that exists right now, you actually might not get a noticeable performance increase, right? Because it wasn't designed for it. You might not get a reasonable benefit or a consistent reasonable benefit. You might get like 12 frames like an increase of like 12 frames here. You might get an increase of like 1 frames in this situation.
Well, listen. So let me ask this. So is it a case, and I don't want to dwell on this one too long, but
yeah, we're gonna move on.
Is it a case that mesh shaders can be added after the fact? But
it is.
It is okay.
But you would get less of a return than if
you might get a very sporadic return. You could have incredible in like one level. You could have incredible return.
Okay.
In another level, you might have nothing.
Got you.
That makes sense.
So at the end of the day,
nothing, but you'll get minimal.
But so at the end of the day, it's best to do it with it or really not at all because it's just not. Yes, see.
Correct. Unless you're going to overhaul the game at the same time that you're implementing it with higher models and stuff like that.
Okay.
That's cool.
All right. Yeah. Thanks for
I'm glad that Remedy has figured out how to do this really well, apparently.
Absolutely. I'm hoping that more of the first party teams do that. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And speaking of Remedy, they've also given an update on some of their other games that they had in production. And we already knew all these existed, so there's not really anything super surprising here. But for anyone who didn't know, here's what they're working on. Control 2 is in a proof of concept stage. It's apparently been in that stage for a little bit longer than people were expecting, but they're just wanting to make sure that it's really good, I'm sure. Max Payne 1 and 2 Remake are ready for production, and that's being partnered alongside Rockstar because they do still own that IP. There's a 4-player co-op gas game called they have it labeled here as Condor, but I think that's a project name.
Yeah, it's Project Condor.
Which is a Control spin-off that's apparently also ready for production. And then there's a Project Vanguard that's being published through Tencent. That's a free-to-play co-op PvE shooter. So they've got a lot of things going right now. I think they're an extremely talented team. This is something that's really come up a lot lately with this in particular is I really do think that Remedy is going to be on everybody's acquisition list, right? Like I think PlayStation, Xbox, everybody really is looking at like, hey, they're doing some really good stuff with a relatively small team, considering how many teams or how many games they have going all at once.
Yeah.
And it's really impressive. I think that I don't know if they want to be acquired, which would be the big thing. But I look at their output here, and especially with some of the stories we're going to get to later about like layoffs and stuff and how stressful a time it is in the games industry right now. I mean, we're seeing they're partnering with Rockstar and 505 and Tencent. Like, they're very much playing the game of like moving around and figuring out like you can publish this and you can publish this here. Like, I think them being acquired by a bigger company might be good for them to just focus on the creative aspect of it. But I was wondering what you thought about that.
See,
Yeah.
I think they might try to fill the void of the publishers that are merging and leaving.
Mhm.
Personally,
That could happen.
I think they're going to. I think like just like what's the company that did Plague Tale, the company that published that.
Asobo.
Asobo made it. Published it was Focus Entertainment.
That's
Like
right.
I think that we're going to see some of these companies come up and kind of fill the void that was left by Bethesda and Activision
Mhm.
in the publicly traded realm. I think they're going to fill some of that investment space personally.
I could see
And
some
I
of
think
that.
that they may acquire
would
they may acquire the studios themselves to grow.
Yeah. I mean, we'll know pretty fast if they start publishing stuff on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I
Because it's
expect
a
some.
publicly traded company.
I expect some
Yeah.
people like EA who spoke on the acquisition of.
well, EA is looking to get acquired.
Well, they can still acquire too at the same time, because even
They
Sony
can.
acquires somebody while they're going through the world.
Activision acquired somebody while they were being acquired.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I see some people, like I can see Focus Entertainment. I can also see somebody like Thunderful, who's put out good games or published good games as well, like Planet of Lana and a few other things. So I can see some of them actually filling that void. But as far as this thing here with Remedy, I feel like Remedy, it'd be best for them to stay independent, and I think they want to stay independent.
Yeah.
But if they did get acquired by anybody, you already know I'm home team Xbox. I want them to come on back home. But yeah.
I do think this is like the biggest thing that Xbox is missing from their catalog right now is a game like Alan Wake. So
Yeah.
I think this is absolutely something that they're talking about. Whether or not it comes true or like the conversation goes anywhere
Mhm.
is a matter of discussion, I'm sure.
I know they had
but-
like a bit of a falling out though, right? Didn't they have a little bit of
They
an
did-
issue?
No. So there was the thing where they bought the Alan Wake rights back from Xbox, and I think everyone's viewed that as like, oh, they hate them, because they like, I don't know, they just wanted to publish other things and do other things other places. It was sort of the same thing as like Bungie or whatever, but it's really on the same level as like the Obsidian thing. Like, people said the same thing about Obsidian for years, where they're like, oh, Obsidian hates them because they canceled that one game they're working on, and probably for a while they did.
Right.
But like, hey,
They
if
just
you're
don't
tired
last
of
long.
if you're tired of running around and trying to find publishers to keep the lights on, and you're seeing good things from this company, and like, I mean, Fergus Urquhart at Obsidian, he did the whole rounds, and he went and he talked to all the other teams that have been acquired, and it's like, oh, it's really it is actually like what they're saying is true, and like all this stuff is working out for you guys so far. Cool. If they have all that positive word on their side, and then also a dump truck of money, like, yeah, that hate does not last. Like, that's
Yeah.
not a thing that's going to stop an acquisition. If they want to stay independent or become a publisher of their own, that's something that would. But yeah, I never really look at well, these people don't get along as like a real thing in terms of acquisition.
Like, Microsoft almost ruined Double Fine back in the early 2000s.
Yeah.
When they canceled the publishing of Psychonauts originally, the first one.
Right.
And look at them now.
Yeah. Look at him now.
Like,
Now we
He
own
came
you.
out with the Zune in his pocket. God, I love that man.
Yeah, Tim
Tim
Schafer's
Schafer's
the
like
man.
my favorite. I love him so
One of my
much.
favorite developers as well, and creative minds. Yeah. So what else did we have in the news?
Yes, sir. Okay, so we have previews from the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora game that went out this week. I've got two real fast one here. Tom Regan from VGC says, the first thing that strikes me about Frontiers of Pandora is its breathtaking vistas, from the expectedly dense jungle to breathtaking floating land masses towering over you from atop the clouds. It's a shining example of what can be done when freed from the shackles of last-gen hardware. Yet while the studio's expertise at crafting it is leveraged to a T, the shiny next-gen visuals give way to a distinctly 360-era approach to game design. For the first 20 minutes, I'm having a great time simply picking flowers, murdering hapless creatures, and then sticking it to the unlucky marine forces scavenging the remnants of the forest overgrown outpost. The problem, however, comes when I realize that I still cannot locate my objective. In the first time in an open world game in recent memory, finding a story objective is bafflingly difficult, with 0 objective markers, a Navi sense vaguely guiding players to an unhelpfully massive area, with little help on what the given plant you're supposed to be looking for looks like, and where they might reside in Pandora's gargantuan map, my initial wonder that exploration becomes a tedious journey without purpose, a hapless tourist lost on a jumble trek. Sorry. And then this one is very funny to me. Connor McCarr at VG247 says, all in all, Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is fine. I don't mean that in a harsh way. It's a perfectly palatable product for the average person. It's kind of the point, I think. It's a game with no sharp edges that would cause someone to walk away. Now, in doing so, does it sacrifice a degree of interest or mystique that you could find in a more specialized FPS? I think so. But buy it for your dad or your brother with a short back and sides haircut. It's a game for Facebook Messenger users, those who like milk and one sugar with their tea, and dogs called Knacks, vanilla ice cream in a year packed with colorful flavors.
It's very oddly specific.
For those with a taste of simple pleasures. He's saying like this game isn't bad, but it's boring as shit. And
Damn.
buy it for your boring dad.
It's fine. When somebody describes something, it's fine.
It's fine.
Automatically, I lost interest. Yeah.
I read a bunch more of these. It's basically just like no one's really saying it's terrible. I think there was like one who hated it, but most people are just like it's fine. Like this is the most unoffensive but uninteresting version of this it could possibly be. It's basically just blue Far Cry. They say the map is really pretty, but it's very empty and confusing. And just honestly, from the gameplay chunks that I saw in the various previews, it just looked kind of meh. Like there was nothing about it that really was amazing to me.
Yeah.
Like some of the animals and stuff looked cool, but maybe if you really love this IP, like if you really love the Avatar IP, which apparently a lot of people do because it sells well in the movies every time.
Yeah.
Then maybe you'll love this. But I look at it and I'm like, I don't know, dude.
When I first saw them showcase it at that Ubisoft event, I was unimpressed. I was like, it didn't do anything for me. So I don't know. I guess it lived up exactly to what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it looks visually better, like after more work was put into it from the screens I saw. But yeah, I didn't think it was going to. And it's always a tricky thing anyway with these licensed games. It's, you're going to hit and miss. A lot of these people don't get it right when it comes to those, in my opinion. Star Wars, notwithstanding, of course, because, they don't play that. You're going to have to get that right. It's too big of a franchise to miss on. But yeah.
Well, because they're also working on that Outcasts one. And it makes me a little nervous of like, if their thing that they're doing with these licensed IP is just like the most safe kind of vanilla route that they can take with these things. And it's like, are they also going to do that with Star Wars? Because like we've gotten a lot of vanilla Star Wars lately and I don't need more.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Well, here's to hoping that they improve on some things, especially the map, and maybe maybe we'll move from cup of milk to something else as far as the description of this game.
We'll make it chocolate milk.
Right. What else do we have?
Just a couple more here. We got the Nintendo Switch 2 has maybe leaked, but probably not, actually. There was a patent that everyone was passing around for what appeared to be the next Switch. It's a 2-screen thing that kind of looks like a DS, but if you close it, there's a 3rd screen on the top. And you can separate the 2 halves of it into like potentially 2 separate controllers and or like a docking system. It's unclear if it even has a docking station or if it's just purely a handheld that then like links to a TV through some kind of dongle or something. I don't think that this is the real Switch. Nintendo has a long history of just like tons and tons and tons of patents that never go anywhere. So I don't necessarily think this is the real one, but I don't know if you guys had seen this, and if so, what you thought of it.
Yeah, from my understanding. Go ahead, Crusader.
I didn't.
I saw
didn't see it.
I saw it, but I don't believe it's that. I think we won't see that until we see it. Like, Nintendo doesn't suffer the way Microsoft suffers from leaks. Sony doesn't either. So I took it as like, this is not what we think it is, and pretty much wrote it off.
Really, my only problem with it is that from what I saw, it just looked overly complex. It's like, what am I doing with all these different screens? There's no way that the majority of games are going to support this. If this is the Switch 2 and it is powerful enough to play some of the third-party games, none of the third-party games are going to use 2 of these screens. I guarantee it. And it's just like, I don't know, dude. Like, this feels very much. It feels like something Nintendo would do because they make a lot of weird decisions.
Yeah.
But I don't necessarily think. I don't know. I just, for some reason, I can't imagine this one happening.
Yeah, no, I can't either. I don't know. Like I haven't had. It's so funny to say this, but I haven't had a Nintendo console in so long. Like I'm
No
very,
Switch?
yeah, no, not even a Switch. Although
No
I have
Abacus.
family have it, but I don't have it. Like I got my ROG, so I can put the games on there if I want it. You know what I mean? And legally, of course.
Legally?
Shout out to Keosanti. I can. It's a way to convert it, of course, and they can't get you because you own the game. But
Yeah.
yeah, but owning a Nintendo, I don't know. I feel like it's so old and outdated. Like I didn't want that. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I do have a hope for the Switch 2 or whatever they're going to call it. So I think I will invest in that. Allegedly, it's gonna
Casante with the abacuses in the chat.
yeah, right.
You
Abacus
son of
shout
a-
out. Right. But yeah, like I think we got to start putting like some cubes in the chat for the abacus. But yeah, like I think I will invest in the next one just to say like they're saying it supposedly is going to be like as powerful as the Xbox One and PS4.
Yeah. Well, if it's not backwards compatible, I ain't buying it. That's what
Yeah.
that's my
Yep.
line in the sand. That's where I'm at. This is the first Nintendo console I have owned, the Switch.
Mhm.
I've owned handhelds, but I've never owned a console before. And if they are going to completely discount all of my purchases and investment into the system and just be like, it's not backwards compatible, go screw yourself,
Yeah.
then I think I'm done with Nintendo. I like Nintendo well enough. Like some of their, like I really like Fire Emblem, and I think Xenoblade is neat. But I will not be sad to not play the next Zelda or the next Mario. If they're not going to respect me, I'm not going to give them my money to not respect me.
No, I hear you on that. And the whole games, it's funny that everybody always focuses on Xbox or whatever, talking about games preservation, but ignore like Sony and Nintendo with their lack of. When it comes to
Nintendo's
that.
awful at it because
Yeah.
they'll do it, but then they'll charge you full price for it again, and people
Right.
keep buying it because they're like, these games are great. And
don't
I'm like,
get
they're
it.
not that great.
Yeah,
They're not buy it for $70 4 generations in a row.
Listen,
Great, dude.
when I saw that Nintendo put out the cardboard boxes and stuff that you could shape up to,
Oh my god.
and
the
people were,
lava.
yeah, when I saw people buying that, I was like, it's over with. People buy anything from Nintendo, so it's a wrap. But what else do we have?
Speaking of weird preservation stuff, Xbox is blocking unauthorized third-party stuff. Some people thought this was a really big deal, and some people thought it was really not a big deal. And I don't really care either way, I guess, because it doesn't really affect me. But basically, they're saying it's like, hey, this will stop certain things from like spoofing and hacking and or cheating in some of our games. And I'm like, sure, whatever. I don't use any of this third-party stuff anyway. And also, like, I feel like pretty much every, like, even ones that aren't specifically Xbox branded at the stores, like they always have that seal on it that's like, these are approved and can work with the Xbox. So like I know that those are working, and they also said that they're expanding other things that do work for it. The only area that I've heard people actually be concerned about this with like a legitimate issue is in like Evo fighting game type stuff. And I feel like most of them have switched over to PlayStation anyway because they own Evo. So
Rock
Pretty
Band
much.
stuff as well, because
Rock Band stuff as well.
you can't get the official
Peripherals.
adapters and peripherals
Yeah.
anymore.
But is there even a
so
Rock Band that's playable on the?
Not
Rock
on
Band
the,
4.
Rock Band
Is it
4 was the
playable on Series
last
X?
one. You have to buy that
Nice.
adapter for it though, and I don't
Yeah.
think you can even find those anymore.
You can't, and that's what people are using unofficial
devices for it.
USB adapters for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Me and my
I didn't know
family
that.
loved Rock Band. By the way, I want to get back to playing it a bit. We like usually when we all meet up, we'll play some Rock Band. I still have a soft spot in my heart for that game. So, and that's why I want hopefully Activision to rebound with Guitar Hero. That would be nice. But then it comes to the whole issue with the devices and the peripherals. So like, how are you going to get that sorted out? I feel like where's Mad Cats when you need them? They
Does
disappeared.
Mad still exist?
I don't think they do. Do they?
Oh
I
no!
don't-
Somebody bought them. That would be my guess. If
Maybe
they're
that
not
was
like
it.
still their own thing, I bet somebody bought them and was like, now we're Mad Dogs, or I don't
Yeah, right. Now we're Mad Dogs with a Z.
know, with two Z's.
Right.
I did type Mad Cats into the doc for this because that was one of the things I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And my Google Docs knew to correct it to be spelled with a Z. So I don't know what that's about.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they're still around, but I guess much more limited than what they used to be. I guess they just don't have the contracts they used to have and things like that. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah. What else did we have in the news?
Hi, my name's Trey. I'm 14 and I got a BlizzCon tomorrow.
Nice.
So BlizzCon is tomorrow. Jez Gordon seems to think it's going to be something big is going to happen at it, but I will also mention that Jez is a really big Blizzard fan, and so something that's big for him might not necessarily be big for the rest of us. Although apparently the survival game that's like Project Odyssey, I don't think that's its actual name. I think that's a code name or something.
It is. Yep.
Seems to be a good bet to maybe be at the opening ceremony. They don't have like a specific secondary, because they showed their whole like roadmap of all the different conversations they're going to have. And it doesn't have its own like standalone thing, which I don't necessarily think that would spoil it by having that there. But yeah, I think it's mostly just going to be like, hey, here's the new season of Diablo, here's a new thing in WoW, here's new Overwatch Hero, like that kind of stuff.
The opening of the show is 2 hours long.
Oh.
And that is what's in that is unknown.
I do think that they'll probably they're going to have to at some point acknowledge like, hey, we're Xbox now. So yeah. I wonder if that'll be part of that, where it's just maybe like a conversation or something, or like, I don't know, will Phil Spencer be there? Maybe.
No, I'm pretty sure he said that he's not going this year.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. I wonder if maybe they'll showcase. Well, I think we spoke about this before, Danny. You were talking about they're not going to really. Was it this or it was a different one, wasn't it? Actually, it wasn't this one.
I don't know.
I forgot which one it was.
What were they gonna not do?
It was an event. It wasn't BlizzCon. It was something else. I forgot which one, but you said it was.
Oh, you talking about QuakeCon?
QuakeCon. That's what it was.
Yeah, QuakeCon didn't have anything this year. It was just they didn't have any panels or anything. Pete Hines announced something. I forget what, like the first day, just like on the floor by the BYOC.
Right.
But it was just a block party this year. They just had the food trucks in the BYOC, and that's all it was.
Okay.
I didn't go.
So this one here, I wonder would we get a chance to have the game that Blizzard is working on, a new game, the survival game.
Yeah,
was
the Odyssey thing. That feels like it's a safe bet. People have been talking about that. It will, I guess, important to note, this is usually strictly Blizzard thing, so I wouldn't expect to see anything from Activision. I know that there were some people who were like, oh, this is their big conference, we're going to see that like RPG that Treyarch or whoever the hell was working on. It's like, no, that's not how this works. So don't expect that. Right. The survival game seems like probably the biggest surprise that they could throw at us, but I don't know, Yeah. Who's to say? Anything's possible.
Anything's possible.
But just if you're gonna watch it tomorrow, don't expect to be like, oh, and we brought back StarCraft Ghosts and we're doing all this other stuff. Like, I would not expect huge things.
Yeah, I mean, I would love it if it happened, but yeah,
I'd be crazy.
Yeah, I'm guessing too they'll possibly talk about some things with Diablo going forward, whatever, maybe things of that nature.
Yeah. Well, because isn't there like a new season soon, or it just came out or something?
Yeah,
it just came out.
Yeah. I've heard good things about it too. I need to get back. So, yeah, because I got to level 89, about to hit 90s, and I need to get back to that. I want to get to 100 with my rogue and keep going. But yeah, so maybe we'll hear something with that. We'll see. What else did we have?
Just a couple of really fast ones. I don't think we'll have anything to say about this because the next two actually play into. Maybe I'll save these next two until we're about to go into the main topic, because that's more important.
Yeah.
So I'll skip ahead to a not video game related one. This is something that I thought was true already, but now is confirmed as like not true yet, but might be true soon. Anyway, so Mahershala Ali and Blade, right? I said that I thought he wasn't playing Blade anymore because he didn't want to do it.
Right.
I wasn't right, but I was almost right.
Close.
Because he doesn't want to do it anymore. Apparently, he saw the first script and hated it, and he was threatening to leave. And so they were like, dude, we will rewrite the entire script. And so they've been doing that. And they brought in Michael Green, who wrote Logan, to write the whole thing from scratch, which you would think would sound like a great thing. But Disney does have this really fun track record of bringing in really great creative people and then not letting them do the thing that they're good at. So who knows?
Stifling their creation.
Yeah. It's great. It's super great. I love that they do that. But also because of the rewriting of this, apparently they also had to drop the budget a lot because of just how long it was taking, and so it now has less than a $100 million budget, which still sounds like a lot, but for an MCU movie, it's not.
Yeah, especially when you hear like She-Hulk was 250 plus million.
It was 25 million an episode.
Like, sheesh, come on.
And it still looked like
what
that.
A waste.
Which actually, that was another thing. I didn't put it in here, but that was another thing that sort of came out this week. Is apparently they. Like Disney Plus is the first streaming service where they've been like actively patching shows after they came out. Like apparently after, I think it was She-Hulk and it was something else. I don't remember what the other one was.
Oh wait, so they updated the visuals later for it.
Yeah, they're still not good, but they're better.
Wow.
where they went in like a couple weeks afterwards or a couple months afterwards or something and like retouched it. Apparently somebody was passing that around. It was I think discussing film on Twitter. So take that with a grain of salt maybe. But and in other Marvel news, so remember how Quantumania came out and it was really bad and it looked really bad and the effects were awful?
Right.
So it turns out the reason for that is because they moved Quantumania up to cover the Marvels getting delayed. But Quantumania was also not ready at the time that they moved it up, and so the post-production team had to really crunch, and they were working 14-hour shifts, and they call it squeeze, but it's crunch. We know it as crunch.
I want to use a different name to make it sound better.
Yeah, I don't know if squeeze is better or not, but it's something. And apparently that's why many of the VFX shots in that movie came out looking unfinished and blurry. And apparently a lot of people have been really upset about it and are pushing to unionize for exactly these sorts of reasons, which, like, Godspeed, do it.
They absolutely should. You know, it's with the whole Mahershala Ali thing, that bothers me for so much. Again, because of the limited budget, it's like, why would you think this would... I hate to say it this way, but it's like you're going to give an Oscar winner such a low budget. Like, the man is super talented. It's a reboot of Blade coming back to you finally, and this is what you meet it with. And on top of that, I heard he was relegated to like 4th lead in the story, according to like the reports.
So I was always kind of trepidatious about the inclusion of Blade in specifically this arc of Marvel, because I think it would make more sense to hold off on him until like the X-Men or something was happening. Yeah. Because right now it's like Blade's cool. I like Blade well enough. What the hell is Blade gonna do against Kang? Straight up, what's he gonna do? Does he stab a bunch of Kangs? Like, cool. Like, we're gonna get to an Endgame fight where it's gonna be, you know, this arc's equivalent of Endgame. I mean, where it's gonna be like all the Marvels and like people who have like real crazy superpowers doing all the heavy lifting, and you're gonna be like, who's that in the background? Is that a CGI zombie of Academy Award-winning actor Mahershala Ali doing a spinneroonie with a sword? Cool. Like, that's what it's gonna be. And man, I don't know. It's a weird. Like, I'm glad that they're doing Blade because, like, honestly, other than the X-Men and the Fantastic Four, like, there's not a whole lot of other heroes that they haven't already done that I'm super excited for. So they're gonna have to. I mean, they're talking also about doing a soft reboot after Secret War. So who knows? There's so much, because there's another thing about this is that came out this week was that Disney doesn't know what they're going to do about Kang right now, because there's that whole thing of like
Saw with moving to Doctor Doom, and
it's like he's probably not going to go to jail because like there was the whole thing where like also his girlfriend is
he's been cleared now, right? Yeah, he's been cleared now.
No,
he hasn't.
No. So yes and no. So it's a sort of situation where like he's probably not going to go to jail for it, but he's still going to see some kind of action for it, because his girlfriend's defense against it wasn't like, oh no, he didn't do it. Her defense against it was, oh, but I deserved it.
Oh Lord.
So it's like, huh.
I thought
there was that like really forced
I thought she recanted and said that didn't happen, and
I
they
think
found
she tried to do that
evidence
afterwards, but she had already given them the text messages. Like, she already gave them the chat log of like her saying, oh, but I deserved it.
Oh
yeah.
And so she was like, no, it didn't. Like, afterwards she was like, no, it was fine, it's totally fine. And they're like, you might have Stockholm syndrome. Like, I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah, it's a whole lot of like legitimately what the hell is happening. Damn. Like, it's like really hard to actually like parse.
I don't think he'll go to jail for it, but I do think Disney will probably want to distance himself from it.
Yeah.
But it is a situation where Disney's kind of screwed in the whole situation, because they couldn't rewrite anything because of the strike until very recently.
They can recast him. I mean,
they could recast him.
Yeah.
But apparently some of the other things that they were thinking about was also like pivoting to a different villain, like just completely switching it to be Doom or something.
Yeah.
Like that was one that was thrown around. Although they didn't specifically say like for sure Doom, they said a villain like Doom.
What other villain is like Doom?
I got no idea, dude.
There is no Doom.
There's so many like
there is only Doom
Marvel villains.
Yeah, like Doom is somebody who you have to build up to. He's like a Thanos. You have to build up to. I don't think you should just throw Doom out there like that.
It just feels like we're at, and you're right, and I agree with that. It feels like we're in a situation at this point where it's like, kind of feels like y'all are winging it.
Yeah, like it kind of does.
It feels like a lot of things have gone very wrong with you all at once.
It really does with Disney. It seems like they lost their way a lot of. I don't know what's going on with them, man. But I just could have sworn that he was cleared, though.
It
He
is one of those things
and
where
then
like
he
he probably won't go to
wasn't.
jail.
Damn.
It keeps going back and forth.
Yeah.
I feel sad about
I
that.
do think he for it though.
Yeah.
He might see some kind of like he'll have to like pay somebody, but I don't think
they could use a racist character, the hate monger from the comics, and it'd be like all we was all kangs. Yeah, that's the perfect way to use that line.
I think if they recast, the most likely choice would be, because it's already a fan theory, is that they would do the High Evolutionary, who was played by Chuck Wooji, whatever the hell, who was also in Peacemaker.
Well, they've already killed him off. Spoiler, sorry.
No, he survives.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, they beat the hell out of him, but you can see in the background of that shot when they're exiting the thing, you can see someone's carrying him out.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, he's still alive.
Okay, I missed out.
But even so, like he could just be a different variant because that's all that Kang is. But you could just be like, oh, some of the Kangs look like this, and some of them look like that guy we don't talk about.
Oh no, I'm talking about I'm thinking of the High Evolution.
No, yeah, that's the guy.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind. Yeah. I also saw too they were talking about trying to bring back the original cast of the Avengers and stuff, like and they can, to be fair, because
they
it's multiversal.
Will. Yeah. Well, that's what not Infinity War. Secret War is.
Yeah.
Like that's what that's going to be. Is it's going to be like, and here's Iron Man, but he's a robot.
Wait,
here's
did you
Captain
see who was
America,
supposed to be headlining Secret Wars? Did you see who was supposed to be headlining it?
I didn't know. Who was it?
Supposedly the main characters are supposed to be Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and
get out of here, get out of town with that.
And what's his Hugh
Garfield?
Jackson's Wolverine.
Oh man, that'd be really funny. Actually,
that was with this news this week too, and I was just like, what?
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, you have my attention with that.
I was like, I'll watch that, but it does 100% feel like a break glass. We're in a pickle situation.
Yeah. What else did we have in the news, Danny?
All I've got left is ones that lead directly into the main topic, which is, hey, apparently there's layoffs expected at Firesprite pretty soon here. Firesprite, you may not know because they were only just recently acquired, and I think also are pretty recently made studio. I might be wrong on that. But they're the VR team that made called The Mountain, the mountain climbing Horizon game that people played for like a day and then everyone forgot existed. So that really sucks. But it's, I guess, given how many layoffs have been in place, VR is not making a ton of money, and that seems to be something that is potentially not going to be supported so much in going forward.
I never thought it was. I saw the writing on the wall for that thing personally.
Yeah, I was surprised when they bought VR Studios, but it was one of those things where I was like, they do need to have people support this if they're going to do it, but it doesn't really feel like they're going to support it anyway.
Yeah.
So I was like, I don't know, maybe they'll do it, maybe they won't. I don't know.
Yeah. I think Sony's going to have a major pivot back to their strong suit. We're hearing all these.
I hope so.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing
right
for
now, because we've been seeing. There's a rumor going around. It has yet to be confirmed officially.
Yeah.
But it would make sense. And the only other thing I have here is apparently in the middle of all this nonsense of them letting all kinds of people go from basically every one of their major teams, they also bought a team for some reason. PlayStation bought iSize. It's not a video game studio, but it is being purchased by specifically SIE. It's a team that uses AI deep learning type stuff to like help with video processing. Like it's gonna make their games look prettier, and it's gonna help with like streaming services. And so that's really all that is. It's not necessarily a game development team. So even though it does look really bad that they're like, hey, we bought this new team and also we fired like 600 people or whatever it is, they are technically in different venues, so it's like, okay, I get it.
Yeah, the optics look terrible for sure.
The optics are bad.
Yeah.
Full stop, they are bad.
That's like one thing that like companies don't stop hiring even when they're laying people off, because it's not like there's some positions that they still need to fill. Yeah. That's like one of the most like fucked up things to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Crusader, I'm going to read this off, and I wanted to know if you would care to read off a lot of the Paul Tassi parts.
Sure.
Section it off. So I'm going to read off from Jason Schreier. By the way, for everybody who's still here with us, if you guys are here, if you have not done so yet, hit the like button. And if you have not done so yet, hit the subscribe. We appreciate you guys for being here with us tonight. So our main and only main topic, starting off with Jason Schreier from, I believe, Bloomberg. From Bloomberg. He says news, and this was the first breaking of it. Bungie laid off 8% of its staff Monday, or around 100 people, sources tell Bloomberg, 2 weeks ago, staff were told they were projected to miss revenue targets by 45%. Ouch. Nearly 50%. Employees were galvanized to get things on track. Then came surprise layoffs. There are more to this. And Paul Tassi actually tweets that. So he says it was weak player retention after Lightfall, final shape getting good, not great feedback, and now that's delayed for improvement. Some cut roles are getting outsourced, and he wrote more on that. And I'll kick it to you, Crusader, and let you go ahead with more from Paul Tassi.
Sure. I'm going to dig into Paul Tassi's, it's an article called The Bungie and Destiny 2 Situation Gets Worse Per New Info. And that is basically the best summary you can physically have of everything up to the news that we got today. He basically summarizes every article in it, from IGN, from Bloomsburg, and all of the stuff that he himself brought to the table.
Yeah.
While owned by Sony, Bungie continues to operate as an independent arm. Sony itself has asked for spending cuts because they are having a large mandated spending cut across all of Sony, not even just PlayStation, all of Sony, including like the music, the TV film, the cameras, all of it. They laid off approximately 8% of the company after promising that they would not lay off people as part of the acquisition and transition period.
That's the part that got me a lot right there. It's like right after they promised that.
Yep. Employees found them. So the reason they'll get away with it, they can if they wanted to try and weasel their way out of it, they'd say it's because of the economic downturn, not because of the acquisition itself, which is nonsense. But employees first discovered this when they got to work and found themselves locked out of their accounts. Their emails had already been locked, and they also discovered that they had like meetings on their schedules, like 15-minute meetings suddenly added. Employees were not allowed to say goodbye to other team members, to exchange contact info or anything. Wow. It would have to be done after the fact. Many of the middle management, so your line managers, things like that, had no idea who was being cut until it happened. The company purposely tried to hide internally, not even to us, the consumer. They tried to hide it internally, just how many people had been laid off. Only outside reporting first stated the numbers, Bloomberg's reporting. Major veterans of the company had been laid off, such as Michael Salvatore. Does everyone know who Michael Salvatore is?
Yeah, Michael Salvatore is an old-time vet of Bungie, working closely with Marty back in the day, making some of the music we've come to love from the OSTs from Halo and now with Destiny.
All of the Halo stuff, right? Like Marty's name shows up first, but they were partners. They owned a company together, and before they both came to work at Bungie, right? O'Donnell went to work at Bungie very early on in Halo CE. Salvatore worked contractually with Bungie through all that time until about, I believe, 2011.
And he was with them for how long? Was it 24 years, was it?
He was with them since 1997.
Sheesh.
So you can do that math.
Yeah.
And then you can another name that a lot of people will know will be Lorraine McLeese. At least so especially if you're in the Destiny community, you'll know a lot of the names of the people who got laid off because Bungie's very prideful with their employees, at least historically. They do these things called Vidocs, where a lot of companies will do the Vidocs where they'll show like in depth of like development. Ninja Theory does a ton of them, but Bungie's are really special because they allow middle manager devs and even some like lower devs to come and talk about what they're doing and what they're happy with and what they're proud of. So these faces of people that are laid off, we like the Destiny community knows a lot of them, right? It's not like regular studios where you'll hear layoffs, but like we don't really know the faces. Like when it comes to Bungie, the community knows the faces. They talk with us every day on Twitter. Their faces are in these Vidocs. But it was Lorraine McLeese was laid off. You know who Lorraine McLeese was?
Lorraine McLeese, from what I had read, and I didn't know this, but she had also been with them for a long time doing artwork.
Yes.
She did the original Halo logo. Is that
Correct.
correct? Yeah.
Yes. And they recently bragged about her in a Vidoc. I don't remember if I'm trying to remember which one it was. I don't know if it was a Lightfall one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember if it was the Final Shape one, or I think it was the Bungie 30th anniversary one. For the 30th anniversary content drop in Destiny, I believe they had her on in it.
Right.
But she's been in recent Vidocs. Like, we've seen her face recently.
That's crazy.
Some employee benefits end at the end of the month. The benefits here were mostly we're talking like expense reports.
Mm-hmm.
Healthcare, luckily, they have for 3 months, guaranteed 90 days of Cobra coverage as part of their severance. But because these layoffs happened starting on the 30th, if you were laid off on the 30th, you had 1 day to get your expense reports in. 1 day. For some of these benefits.
Very shady. So
many employees.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Would that save them then, Bungie, from trying to pay them for another month or two? What would be the case of that? Like,
so if they didn't get their expense report in, they wouldn't have to pay the expense report. So like expense reports are if you had to travel.
Mm-hmm. What you would put
usually,
on the print, basically.
Well, usually you might even put it on your own and then expense report it, and you'll get a check in the mail.
Gotcha.
Like, I'm an IT person. I have to drive on site to all kinds of companies all the time. I don't have a company card. I am a tier 1 tech, right? So I put it all on my credit card, but then I submit all my receipts, and then they add more money to my paycheck to pay me back for the expenses. And the similar stuff is true here for like the people who are in like publishing. If you were in publishing and you had to travel to an event and you paid for it out of pocket, you had 1 day to get it in, right? Those kind of things. And so there's also these things called unvested shares. So Bungie was a private company before they were bought, right?
Right.
And a lot of the people in the company basically owned like a portion of the company in it being private and based on how their like benefits work, right?
Right.
And when Bungie was purchased, employees were entitled to shares of what are called unvested shares in the company that would be paid out over time. A portion of the acquisition was set aside for employee retention, where you essentially got these shares, and some of them are unvested, and then over time, some of them get vested, and
they didn't hit the timeline yet for that. So basically, as for those who might not know, so unvested, basically, they are promised these, but only when that due time hits. So for now, these are just promissory notes, basically. You'll get them eventually, and they said, "Well, we're going to fire you." Now those revert back to Bungie. It's pretty shady.
Yes. Well, so if you remember at the time that Bungie was acquired by PlayStation, there was a big thing that went around where it was like they're paying a bunch of money to keep the talent on. It turns out that a lot of that, maybe most of it, was in the form of these unvested things, these unvested stocks, and so that's money
exactly what this was.
Yeah, so that money that they had put in to keep the talent on, they were like, we're gonna get rid of those people anyway, so let's just take all that money back. So really, they were just like, hey, we want to keep these people around for a little while, but I don't know, if we end up not needing them, we'll just take all that back.
That's pretty shady right there. And by the way, just to add, Michael Seacrest, who worked along with Salvatore, was also let go.
Yes. For anyone who knows the who plays Destiny often, or has played like the Beyond Light expansion, either of you played Beyond Light?
No, I heard it was not.
It was okay. It was okay.
But I've heard it was kind of like, it was.
It was okay. It was fine. The raid was really good, and there's this section where you're basically doing a spacewalk in the raid. You're going outside a space station, and you're walking through 0G. All of the sound is really muffled because you're there's no air, and you're looking out at the moon of Europa from space. And it's playing this gorgeous piano piece called Deep Stone Lullaby. I recommend everyone go listen to it if you like piano music. It is fantastic, and Michael
Is it
I
Seacrest or
don't-
Sheer? I think it's Seacrest.
I think it's like
or
Shears. I'm not totally sure. I don't know how to pronounce the last name.
Me either.
He was the composer of that piece,
Right.
and he was kind of like Salvatore's like one of his like
Right hand man.
the people like under him,
Right.
but like directly under him, and it won awards. It's like one of the most acclaimed pieces of Destiny music. They eventually actually even added it to the like when you're just sitting in the director in space and you're just sitting in your ship waiting to party up to go do something.
Yeah.
It'll actually play in the background while you're doing that sometimes.
Yeah.
There's a random set of tracks that can play there, but they added to that because everyone loved it so much.
That's pretty crazy.
But it's likely that some of the employees who were there for a long time had were owed lots of unvested shares.
I'm sure.
And that's why we're seeing people like Lauren McLeese and Michael Salvatore leave.
Yeah. So the people that's why we're seeing so many people who seem like, or not seem like, who were really important people, that they're the people who are getting let go because they're the people who had all this money tied up in them. And so it was like, oh, well, we have so many of these unvested stocks tied up in Salvatore or whatever. We're going to fire him and then effectively make all this money back. Like, we're going to actively make a profit off of firing this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to add to that, like, as far as that goes, you also had a few people reacted. Luke Hidden Xperia, he reacted very harshly to the news of Salvatore. He was pissed. He said, the Bungie we all grew up on and with are long gone. That's just why I titled tonight's podcast tonight the way I did, because it's been a long time known, I guess, open secret, if you will, or whatever, that Bungie had a long time where they lost a lot of the developers that made Halo, and those developers did come to 343. So
yeah, it was like split in half. Like
absolutely.
A lot of them left because like Kiki Wolfkill, Marty O'Donnell, Staten,
Netflix.
Yeah. Right. I mean, all of those three are like everyone we just listed is no longer at 343.
True.
But
well, Kiki
like
Wolfkill is still there, right?
I don't know.
Yeah, Kiki
actually.
is still there. Kiki is still there, but not Bungie.
I think she's in charge of like, isn't she like in charge of like the TV film adaptations?
Something like that. I forgot the exact title.
She's not actively working on with the game side anymore.
Right.
But
you may have already said this because when I came, I spoilers. I left to go get water. When I came back, you were talking about the composer.
Yes.
O'Donnell. Does he still? Where's he at?
O'Donnell.
I don't think he still works at Bungie.
No, he was fired during the Activision era.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Marty O'Donnell is kind of a very controversial figure.
True.
Shocker.
Right? He says a lot of horrible things. He's known to be impossible to work with. Like, there's a reason why when he was fired from Bungie, he was never approached by 343. Okay?
Yeah.
He makes excellent music.
Yeah. Well, because you look at that was something that I don't usually know the names of people who make music, but when I saw that Salvatore had been let go, I was like, oh, which ones did he do? And I went to the Halo soundtracks, and it was like his name is on all of it.
Yeah. He co-composed all of it.
It was him and O'Donnell were like the two names on every Spotify thing. And I was like, what happened to that other guy?
O'Donnell, Salvatore never wanted to be a public figure. So that's like he doesn't even show up in Bungie's Vidocs, right? He never wanted to be a public facing figure. Marty O'Donnell is a narcissist. he loves people.
So what you're saying is, if Salvatore wants to continue working in video games, he will not have difficulty finding a job.
No, he should not have to. He's like the opposite response was true when he left, in that he was like everyone was like he is like the sweetest man on the planet.
Yeah.
Paul Tazzi reached out to him for like stuff, and like you can go find it on Paul's Twitter.
Yeah.
He got permission to put the email up that Salvatore responded with, and it was just like
going fishing.
Kind.
He couldn't even like bring himself to be mad.
Yeah.
He's probably rich to be fair.
Yeah.
But yeah.
True. And I'm sure he's also more angry than he lets on.
Pretty much. Yeah. Fair enough. But I was going to say too, just to add to this. So, the shadiness of all of this, it goes back to Pete Parsons, who is the CEO of Bungie. And IGN reported, and a few people reported, that after a round of layoffs that impacted multiple departments, Bungie CEO Pete Parsons allegedly And by the way, doesn't his name sounds very like like what's the word that they call that? Like when they
P. Parsons, alliteration.
alliteration, exactly.
Yeah.
Like Peter Parker or something. Doesn't it sound like a created name?
Yeah.
So it says that he allegedly told remaining employees that the company had kept the right people to continue work on Destiny 2. And this is his tweet, by the way. So he says, "Today is a sad day at Bungie as we say goodbye to colleagues who have all made a significant impact on our studio. With these those exceptional individuals have contributed to our games and Bungie culture has been enormous and will continue to be a part of Bungie long into the future. These are truly talented people. If you have openings, I would highly recommend each and every one of them." And Hidden Xperia said, "You are the CEO, Jesus effing Christ."
Yeah.
I don't use a Lord naming
You're
curse behind it, but yeah. So
Yeah, you're the ones who
My favorite response to that tweet was, "My brother in Christ, you made the sad day at Bungie."
You made the sad day.
my brother in Christ.
It's one of those things where like I understand what he was going for,
Right.
and he missed it so far.
Well-
Where it's just like it's like, look, man, like I understand that there are certain times when like companies have to let people go. Like that is a thing that just happens in business and it sucks shit.
Mhm.
Like,
Right.
but there, when you come out and you're like, man, this really sucks. Like, you're the one who
you're the one who made the decision,
I
right.
understand that it sucks, and I understand that you probably also think that it sucks, and that you're not lying when you say that. But this is, I don't want to hear this from you.
Exactly.
What I want to hear from you is why this had to happen.
Yep.
Minimally, like you need to come down to my level and talk to me like a human and be like, hey, I had to make these decisions. I didn't want to. These are the reasons why I made these decisions. Like that's what I want to hear from you. Not, man, this sucks, dude. Am I right? Like Hitler walking through an internment camp and being like, man, I'm hungry. Like,
Right,
shut
exactly.
up. Get the out of my face.
And just to add to that, it's like you hear all this money that was coming into Bungie as far as the retention, and like we talked about with the stocks, possibly like you were talking about, those were possibly the vested stocks and things. We know that the CEOs and whomever else in a higher up position hierarchy are getting paid well, and they probably have a crazy, bank account right now. So I always see these situations, and it's like you have whatever happened to any sense of and semblance of loyalty when it comes to companies. And I know like that's a hard ask to say like, oh, these companies are cold, they're not people, but like to just get rid of that and you like, oh, well, as long as my pockets are lined up, who gives a damn? If they're fired, if they lose their livelihood, these people. And now these people have to scrounge for jobs, and it just feels like, couldn't you all take a little bit like less on your paycheck? That you're already super rich. Like, could you not take a little bit less to let these people live?
That's something. And okay, to be fair, because I'm about to say Microsoft, I should also mention Microsoft did also have some layoffs at the top of the year. Not most of them were not from Xbox, but like the whole company let go several thousand people. Like, it was a big layoff.
True.
It wasn't a lot in gaming. Apparently, it was mostly 343, which was having a problem anyway. And then apparently there were like a handful of people who left Bethesda as well that were apparently
and the coalition
part of it, and the coalition. And so it was like they have also had these layoffs. Something that I want to also point out, though, is that their entire upper level management, like their entire C-suite, Satya Nadella and everybody else, have taken major cutbacks in their personal earnings for this year. Like Satya dropped like $10 million in his earnings this year, and I have to assume that that's in the attempt to keep some of these people around, because like there is a certain amount of this where it's like, yes, there are economic issues that are causing a lot of companies, because it's again not just PlayStation, not just Bungie who are letting people go. It's like the entire tech
industry wide. Absolutely.
Like there are a lot of economic factors that play into this, but like you look at Xbox this year, or Microsoft this year, where it's like Satya Nadella took a big cut, and like his entire suite of people, they took a big cut. And I have to assume that a lot of that is so that they can keep people, so that they don't have to drop people who are talented and they want to keep, because you combine the thing of them losing people, because they didn't specifically say that was the reason that they took these pay cuts, but when you combine that with the fact that it's like also they were voted by Time Magazine to be like the best place to work on the planet, it's like I'm combining those two things to be like, probably these make sense to go together. Like these two are not just a coincidence.
Right.
And then you also look at like Nintendo, who famously during the Wii U era, their people did the same thing at the top of the company.
Yeah.
They didn't want to have to let people go during the Wii U era, and so they took huge cuts of their
like
their top
50% or
talent.
more.
Huge, like
Yeah.
huge.
And speaking of the Nintendo
to
thing,
not have
just
to let people go.
just to add to that, and I know our brother Kay Asante posted it before when he talked about, I think 3 or 4 of the 5 people who worked on like the first Mario game and then I think the Mario movie are still with Nintendo now.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like only one person or something had left.
People
I
don't
forget the
leave
exact numbers.
Nintendo.
They're not allowed to.
Well, they have like the best retention rate of
Yeah.
like any
Of the
company
major
in
3.
like
yeah.
Japan. Well, in Japan in general, of
Oh.
like companies in Japan, they have the best retention rate. Um,
Yeah.
But it is exactly, it's what you're talking about, right? Where it's like we look at these companies who historically, both Nintendo and Microsoft, historically, at least, well, Microsoft not historically, I guess, but recently have have both been named as like really great places to work.
Yeah.
And if we've seen them, walking that walk and talking that talk, and now here we are in 2023, and we're seeing Sony, PlayStation just not live up to that.
Mhm.
Like
what's crazy is Bungie always prided themselves in being different. Like they exclaim to the world that they are different.
Right.
And this is the most corporate nonsense I've seen in a long time.
It
Yeah.
seems
Well,
it's
part of it
almost
that
it
really
almost
pisses
seems
me
like
off.
they kind of took on that whole culture of Sony. Like a lot of people, like I know Paul Tassi actually responded again, and I think I posted it here. And let me see if I can find it because it was here it is. It says new info about the Bungie layoffs. Just to say this before you go, Danny. It says the
No, you're
layoff
good.
allegedly the layoff decisions came directly from Bungie management, not Sony. He said this is not about Sony replacing Bungie employees with their
Yeah.
own people.
Well,
He did clarify that like the why that this is likely caused by
yes.
So
the,
yeah.
the cuts from Sony that like
PlayStation wanted to cut back monetarily.
Cut
They were
back.
basically.
Yeah.
It seems like PlayStation went to
But-
Bungie and they're like, "We need you to cut a certain percentage of your overhead,"
Mhm.
and then
yeah,
Bungie
and
had
this
to
is
decide
how
where
they
that came
did.
from.
Yeah, they like Salvatore was not fired because Sony said fire Salvatore.
Right.
Like
They
that's
left
what he
that
was
for
trying to
Bungie
say
do.
there.
I
Yeah,
see what you mean. Yeah, and that's
Bungie
fair.
made all the decisions.
And that's fair because, and I would have to look at it, and just to say this, 'cause I do want to let you go, Danny. I'm sorry. Salvatore, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say the guy's last name, but McChristy, how do you say? I'm not sure how do you say his last name. And of course, McLeese, like I'm sure the money they were making was in the high 6 figures, probably, right? So I can imagine you would want to cut that if you're like, hey, we got to cut off some people. And I want to play devil's advocate just a little bit. What I don't know exactly outside of the loyalty for them being there so long. I don't know what you could say. Hey, we have to keep them around. He's already made that music. She's already done these graphics for these things for not only for Halo, but for Oni and maybe for Destiny, maybe even in some ways.
Here's the thing about Salvatore. He does the music for every expansion.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Every last one of them.
That tells
Okay.
me. You know what that
And
tells me
seasons.
You know what that
The
tells
game's
me?
ending. Yes.
Because Sony has a crazy expansion. Because Sony's in music as we all know. So
Yeah.
they're probably saying, hey, well, we can just use Sony for that specific thing and have them.
Which sucks.
Yeah, it does. So they're like,
'Cause-
well, it's redundant. We'll get rid of him and use somebody who's making way less, and that'll cut off that overhead for us.
It's so crazy because he
Mm-hmm.
makes some of the like Bungie's missed a lot with Destiny. Like there have been bad expansions. There have
Yeah.
been okay expansions. There have been great expansions.
Mm-hmm.
They have never missed with the music. It is one thing that like definitively same thing can be said with like Square Enix and the Final Fantasy franchise, right?
Yeah.
I was gonna say the same
They
thing about
never
Nintendo.
miss with the music.
Mm-hmm.
And like that's where like a lot of the community, like as soon as we saw that Salvatore was laid off, a lot of the community just kind of went, "Whomstidov? What? Excuse me?"
Do it like my
Yeah.
nephew say.
Like
You say,
It-
huh? You say what?
it would be like if the Lakers like laid off LeBron. He's like the Lakers, right?
All right.
I'm not.
He's with the
I'm not.
Lakers. You're right.
Okay, good. I don't watch much sports.
I like how
made
I like
enough-
how you said it low, like the audience wouldn't hear you. He's with the Lakers.
Yeah.
Yeah, just checking. Don't tell Shad, but
yeah, don't tell Shad. But like they like the music is what, in a large part, is like why Halo was so good.
True.
Because it sets that tone.
It does.
you got high schoolers like what 2 years ago singing
The
all that,
closing
singing the song in the
song.
So
bathroom.
true.
Because they're like, here we go, baby.
You know what's crazy? I have family members who don't play games that know the hum of Halo.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah.
that shows you how powerful that music can be. Like, yeah.
And Destiny's music is incredible. It makes some of the sequences, like the final fight of the Taken King in Destiny 1, when you're fighting Oryx in the campaign. There's a song piece that plays called Regicide that sets the tone. Like the door gets cast back and it's darkness, and it suddenly the room is blindingly white, but it's playing this ba da 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 da, right? Like it's so good. And the like, you've just cast aside the person who gives like a portion of the identity of the games you make.
Right.
You just threw them out like trash.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the thing for us, like, especially us as laymen. Like, we hear this stuff, and it's like, these people have shaped not only, I don't want to say our childhood to sound too dramatic, but in a way they have. Like Halo, I was a kid when it came out. Like, I was young. So like we grew up on that type of stuff. Some people grew up on Destiny, I'm sure. So to have these people who have made such an impact on us get kind of just, removed like that, absolutely, it sucks to hear, man. That's a terrible thing. And to add to the woes of what's going on with not only that at Sony, we're hearing reports, and I don't know if this is confirmed just yet, but Fire Sprite, of course, that they're going through it.
We talked about that a little bit on the rundown.
Exactly.
But because it's across the board, and it's like, it's teams that I wouldn't expect it from, because it's like, okay, Media Molecule, Visual Arts, those two, I was like, yeah, okay, I honestly don't think Media Molecule is probably long for this world. They don't really fit into what PlayStation is doing anymore, and they've already shut down like 2 other studios who didn't, so I wouldn't expect that. And it's kind of the same thing for Fire Sprite. Like, I also would not be shocked to see Fire Sprite just closed in the next 18 months. But then it's like, we just had layoffs at Insomniac, and it's like, how? Insomniac is hard carrying the PS5 right now. They've put out 3 games in 3 years. How the hell
how dare
are
you
telling,
even touch them?
How are you going into the building that is holding your entire console on its back right now and being like, you and you get out?
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. And if I'm Insomniac, I'm like, listen, not only did you get us for like pennies on a dollar, now you want to kick out some of our developers when we're the workhorse. They're literally the workhorse for Sony. There's no question.
100%.
And they're putting out quality games when they do it. Yeah, I'm not removing anybody. You need to find another way. Like, that's how I would feel if I'm in management. Like, no.
Yeah. Or like Naughty Dog. They did the same thing in Naughty. I mean, to be fair, at Naughty Dog, it was the contractors who had been working on the multiplayer thing.
It seems like it's the same at Insomniac.
Yeah.
It seems like it was mostly contractors at Insomniac. That they just kind of closed contracting positions.
The Naughty Dog contractors, and also it happened at EA as well, at BioWare. Both of those groups of contractors were let go. For Naughty Dog, there's probably 2 things, but one of the reasons was because that group of contractors had also like unionized a little bit, and so they were like, "Get them out of here! Ain't no unions, baby." Meanwhile, Microsoft is just like really supportive. Well, at least
Microsoft's
on
like,
paper,
we
supportive
needed
of unions.
They're like, we needed to get this through, therefore the union must be allowed.
Yeah. CWA.
But hey, they can't put that back in the bag, so like,
it's too late now. Yeah. But and we had another gentleman named Roderick Wise, who was, from what I can tell, he's a level or at least a former level designer at Bungie, and he said in a tweet, he said, "I will say this shit is whack. Bungie laid off so many people, and all I can say is, wow, if you all only knew how much Bungie leadership got paid from the Sony deal. I hope that doc gets leaked." And this rumor of this document getting leaked, because it's not only him that said it. I think Marty even said something.
Marty said something about. So it seems like weirdly Marty is still not allowed to talk negatively about Bungie, like contractually, based on some of his tweets, where he was like, "It's weird that you're allowed to in this country you're allowed to say whatever you want about the government, but you're not allowed to
He
say
sure
certain
is.
things about certain companies.
Well,
Yeah, he
He'll-
wants to say it so
It's like,
bad.
he'll get sued for defamation.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Because they'll say that, like, because, like, you lost a suit against us, you're just gonna say anything nasty that you can about us.
Good point.
Like, he'll get sued into oblivion if he
Yeah.
says bad things.
So he's skating on thin ice already,
Well,
saying the stuff he's
and
saying.
he was already in contempt of court because he was selling Halo and Destiny music on Bandcamp. Like,
So one
Come on,
time at
Marty.
Bandcamp,
well, and then he tried to post all of that stuff on the Destiny and Halo subreddits, but it was like the most low effort post where it was like just the link and like the word hello, and it got banned, or the post got removed from both subreddits, and then he went to the mods and was like, "Don't you know who the fuck I am?" Like,
I'm
like,
Marty
that's what I
fucking
mean, but, like,
O'Donnell. Don't you know?
that's why, like, and they're like, "Yeah, we know exactly who you are. Follow the rules of our subreddit. You're not above everyone else here."
Right.
Like, it needs to be on topic.
He's like, if I saw you in your face right now, I would spit in your face.
Yeah, like, see, here's the thing. He also might be making money out of the Sony acquisition,
Right.
because part of the court case was he was fired and they didn't give him the shares he was owed because he owned shares in the company, and it's not like the vested or unvested. This was like back in the Activision days, right?
Yeah.
He owned a portion of the company. And they basically said they fired him with cause, and therefore he wasn't owed that. But the court said no, he actually is still owed that contractually. However, like, we're gonna rule in your favor here, and here, Bungie, with like in regards to, like, he doesn't actually own any of the music or anything like that.
I see.
You do, because he did it under work for hire. And so I don't really know how those shares were transferred, if he was still just like like he owned the shares, like, or if he was paid out money. So he may also have been paid from the Sony deal. So he may know how much, like,
He might. Yeah. He probably
like, how
knows
much other
exact.
people are gotten. So, like,
Yeah.
I wouldn't be shocked if he knows things that, but
It seems like he knows, because the way he keeps
Yeah.
talking, like, I know what's
Yeah.
up, but he can't say
There's-
it.
There's one aspect of this that I want to sort of speak on, where it's
Sure.
like, I don't think this is a situation of like Sony is the evil one or Bungie
no,
is
this is
the
Pete
evil one.
Parsons.
I
This is
think-
Pete Parsons is an evil
Well, I
human
think
being.
both of them are messing up in very, very strong and very distinct ways.
Yeah.
Right? Where it's like, Pete Parsons clearly is not running his company well. I think that we've heard this for a while. We heard it even on the Microsoft documents for why they didn't end up acquiring Bungie.
Yeah.
Was one of the reasons was like, they spend more money than they make and they are poorly managed.
Yeah.
That's
and
true.
it's like,
And-
and that those two bullet points may have just said like, Pete Parsons kind of sucks.
It's funny because everybody was so up in arms at first, like, oh, why didn't you get Bungie? Have them make
Yeah.
Halo. And it's like, no, we don't.
No.
Now we see now. No, we didn't. They made the right decision.
Well, so the thing was, it was like, oh, when Bungie left Microsoft, people were like, oh, the things that, like, were restricting Bungie are gone. Bungie can be Bungie. And then it was
Right.
like, oh, they've left Activision. Bungie can
Yeah,
be Bungie.
right. Yeah.
And
Right.
like,
Activision held them back and did them wrong.
And so we're now, like, Bungie was independent, or Bungie was under Microsoft. Bungie was independent but published by Activision. Bungie was independent.
Right.
And now Bungie is owned by Sony. And the problems have persisted. They haven't left under any form of ownership.
Yeah.
So maybe it was Bungie all
Yeah.
along.
It was them all along. It was
Like,
me all along.
And
I
so,
don't
like,
want. I don't want it to be a situation where like either of them are getting out scot free, but I also want it to be known like I
Yeah.
think both parties are probably like equally at fault for different things. Like,
Yeah.
Like-
the specific choice of who's getting fired, that's 100%
That's-
Bungie's fault.
Yeah.
But PlayStation has made a lot of really poor business decisions lately
Absolutely.
that have led to a lot of other problems, and
Yeah.
also them asking for these layoffs to happen in the
And
first place.
and that goes
it's
back
like-
to our whole tinfoil headery of why Jim Ryan is suddenly, quotation fingers, retiring, and why Connie Booth was let go. All of these things, to me, where there's smoke, there's fire. I think that points to a lot of mismanagement, or at least mistakes from Sony's end too. And people would. It was a chart I saw on Twitter earlier where they were talking about the financials and the profits that they made, but the profits aren't revenue, as we all know.
The
So-
revenue is up. The profits are the same.
Yeah, so they
The
said
margins are
apparently,
shrinking.
yeah, the margins are. They said as low as they were in 2019. They said or something like that. So they haven't
Yeah,
gone up.
a lot of that. So they did go up, but then they went back down to the
Mm.
2019. So like we're seeing that trend in the industry in general, where most everything is going back to the pre-pandemic numbers.
Right.
Like the investment from like outside forces into the gaming industry is back to its pre-pandemic numbers, just like on the scale that you would expect it to be now if
Okay.
it had
Yeah.
followed the pre-pandemic like growth. Which is we saw tremendous growth during the pandemic, which caused a lot of like hyper investment, but now we're seeing the pain of all of the hyper investment, the worst case of being Embracer Group.
Right.
Yeah, Embracer and I would say
and
also Epic.
It's kind of really it's sad because you're seeing a lot of people's like lives torn apart because of it.
Yeah, that's the most unfortunate part, the human cost.
Some of the because like again being as in the Destiny community as I am, I have 2,700 hours in the video game.
Oh man.
Okay.
Christ.
Yeah. Okay. I played a lot of it during COVID. I used to do raid Sherpas during COVID
Yeah.
because I didn't have anything else to do with my life. I was stuck inside in a household where we had a member who has Crohn's disease. She's immunosuppressed.
Yeah.
And so if she got sick, it could be really bad. So I really didn't ever go outside, right?
Yeah.
And I played a lot of Destiny, and this was back when Shadowkeep had first come out. Back when like it was the hooray, we're gone from Activision's no more, right? And it was a wild time in Destiny. We were running raids. I was running through people who never imagined that they would be able to beat raids or dungeons or exotic time trials or things like that, and just carrying them through it, teaching them. And it was such a great time. And then they decided that they were vaulting content, and they were going to take content we paid for, story content, out of the game and just not make the story explained.
I tried to get into Destiny 2 at some point. I think it was last year.
It's impossible. It is impossible.
Because apparently I guess I don't know if this is true. This is what was told to me by a friend of mine who plays the game.
Sure.
Apparently they vaulted the main story, like literally like
Correct.
the
They
main story.
The main
Like,
story.
Like
So-
what was in the box pre any expansions, that is
Correct.
no longer playable. So you turn on the game and you're just like, okay, so I shoot some guys, I guess.
There is a like a basic story that they added to onboard players, but the Red War, Curse of Osiris, Warmind, and all of the minor seasons, so all of the non-expansions, any story that came out with a non-expansion season, is no longer playable in the video game.
So Bungie's been making some bad choices for a while, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They did that. They claimed that they did that in order to keep file sizes low and make it so that they could react to things faster, which file sizes have stayed relatively stable. They've only grown like a bit.
So
Right. But then they also vaulted the Forsaken expansion, the best piece of Destiny content we ever got.
We don't need that.
So my thinking on this is also too, because now we're also hearing about the marathon and the escape from Tarkov, and they had the escape from Tarkov
Yes.
streamers at least playing marathon, and now they're
They were
saying
not
they had no
impressed.
interest. Right? They said it's,
So
so that's
there was
delayed.
some corrections to that.
What was the correction?
So another streamer who actually attended the event came out and broke his NDA. And said that no one raised their hand because Bungie was clear that this was pre-alpha footage. And then when they reiterated the question to some of us later that if we would play that when it was more refined, we said yes. But they didn't raise their hands to say they'd play it today because it was a very unfinished product.
Got you.
And so it was because As to Cross, who reported on this originally,
right,
big Destiny streamer, reported on it from a source, but didn't really have the full context.
Got you. Okay.
In fact, Tom Henderson has reported that from what a lot of people have played, they really liked the gunplay of it.
Okay.
Well, I imagine
so,
that it's just the same gunplay that Bungie puts in everything.
Correct.
Pretty much.
Which is good,
It's
but
really,
like,
yeah.
yeah.
So basically, it was very unfinished. Was really the takeaway that
Gotcha.
people should take from when they sent it to test it. Also, some people have been freaking out that they sent it to Tarkov streamers and like didn't include like anyone in the Destiny community. But if you're focus grouping an extraction shooter, you would want to focus group it with some people who are playing extraction shooters.
Absolutely.
Like,
yeah.
Makes sense. But I want to add to that too that the fact that
It was delayed.
It is
there's
delayed.
clearly
Yeah.
some issue.
Exactly.
They still haven't confirmed that. They still have not confirmed that there was a delay.
Yeah.
reports are that they
But-
delayed it at least.
No, it's delayed. It's definitely delayed.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Bungie still has not addressed the fact that everyone is reporting that it
well,
is.
they're probably
they fired
still
the guy
dealing-
who would have confirmed it.
yeah,
Well, they fired the entire community team.
there
They
you go.
fired Leona Rupert, one of the best resources that they
Oh, yeah, I
had
saw her too.
for reporting things to people,
Yeah.
as well as she is one of the best people for accessibility. She is epileptic, and she used to report on games for Game Informer. She was a Game Informer employee, and she had a seizure while she was playing Cyberpunk 2077.
Really?
And she wrote a huge article with CD Projekt Red's permission, and they had already addressed it, and they were patching it before her
Wait.
article even went live because she passed all
Didn't
this
Game
stuff to them.
Informer
But
also let a ton of people go? Was she let go from both places?
no, so after she put the article live on Game Informer, a lot of people who were stands of CD Projekt Red, and this was before the game released in its horrible spot,
Right.
were like, "You're just bashing the game," and then they DM'd her epileptic material.
What a bunch of fuckers.
I hate the degenerates in the gaming community sometimes,
Yeah.
right? And that actually kind of broke her spirit. And she
Yes.
left
Well,
games journalism and got a job at. She used to be a community manager well before she was a game journalist, and she went back to being community manager. And she was. I remember how excited the entire community was when she became a community manager, because we know how passionate she is about games. She loves Destiny. She loves Halo. She loves Mass Effect. I mean,
Yeah.
my icon in this Discord, like in this call, if everyone can tell, is Garrus Vicarian.
He hates it. He
the-
hates that series.
I hate
Yeah.
the series. But she
Andromeda,
loves Mass
actually.
Effect, and like I actually don't mind Andromeda.
Aw, damn.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah.
But we were so happy, and she is basically the reason why we knew layoffs was happening,
Right.
because she tweeted something, and then she had to add it up that she was also laid off. But she was a voice for accessibility and the community within that company,
I did see her tweets.
and she's gone.
I did see her tweets about it. She had like I think a 6th thread or something like that. Tweet.
Yeah.
I did read that. I forgot to actually share that with the notes, but and that's sad too, man. But I was going to add
Yeah.
to that, by the way, with these layoffs like this happening at Bungie, how crazy is it, in hindsight, that Bungie was brought in, at least the people in higher ups in Bungie or whatever, whomever they brought in, to weigh in on the decision to delay or definitely delay factions.
It's at first glance it looks nuts. I'm gonna say it actually is makes total sense. You don't want a company that has only ever had successes being someone who is going to look at a game and tell you whether it will succeed or fail, because they don't know what
failure
things will
is.
fail.
Yeah.
They only know things that will succeed. So they don't really know how to look at it from the point of we screwed up and had to fix things, or we screwed up and this was unfixable, right? Bungie has both, through the track record of Destiny,
Yeah.
succeeded and failed.
Mm-hmm.
The Witch Queen, which was last year's expansion, was incredible. It was probably the height of player sentiment after Witch Queen launched. We loved it. It was the best piece of content that they have put out probably since Halo 3. Right?
Wow.
Yeah, the Witch Queen is very good. And they've had extreme highs. They released The Taken King, which was also incredible, right? And they released Forsaken with the help of Activision Studios, and it was incredible. And then they've released some actual dog water content, like Curse of Osiris, the original base game of Destiny, which, looking back on it, is awful. But nothing was like it, and so it was great at the time. And I mean, to be fair, the initial launch of Destiny 2 was also pretty bad. Curse of Osiris, the first expansion for Destiny 2, was abysmal and caused the first basic major crisis at Bungie in a long time. They completely reevaluated teams and completely restructured the game after Curse of Osiris.
I hear you on this. I just want to say and interject and say
So
that makes sense what you're saying. However, I think I would personally, just my own thinking, I would go after somebody who's always got W's instead of somebody who's failed too. But that's just my own outlook. But I would
Sure.
add to that though. is that I doubt the employees share your same sentiment. Like, I'm sure they're like, wait a minute,
That's
Well,
true.
no, because
all this
like,
work we
you're
put
gonna
into
think
this,
of it-
now you're gonna just cancel it because they said so, and now they're firing people.
Yeah, so that's where like human emotion will enter
Yeah.
will enter the field, right? And like I totally get that, especially if you're someone at the company.
Right.
But like, you know, like the best teachers are the teachers that have fucked up and failed themselves in life.
That's fair. I mean, wisdom
Right.
is going to come from that, right? Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
Yeah, but I
Um,
feel like most
and-
of those teachers have stopped fucking up.
Sure,
You know what I
sure,
mean?
sure.
Like, they fucked up a lot when they were younger, and then they figured out how to stop doing that.
Yeah, sure, and I agree with that sentiment. I will say that games as a service as a concept is still so young
Yeah.
that you're not out of no one in the field of doing it is out of the learning, right? There is no wise elder in the field of games as a service. The closest
Right.
you're gonna get is either Epic Games or Bungie. Like maybe Ubisoft with whatchamacallit, with Rainbow Six Siege. But,
I
like,
would probably put like an Activision in
I
there, just
wouldn't,
'cause
because
they've
their
done Call of
games
Duty
don't
for
last
1,000
more than-
years.
Their games only you play their game for a year and then you buy the
Yeah, but
next
they
one.
trick you into buying a new one every year.
Sure, but that's not a game as a
That's the real
service.
game as a service.
Well, no, the real games as a service is releasing one thing and then steadily releasing less content into it than you would have to do to make a new game. Like that's the whole
Yeah.
allure of games as a service, right? You might even be able to go EA with Apex Legends.
Mm-hmm.
Or Valve. Valve actually is the king of games as a service, actually. When you look at like Dota 2 and CSGO.
Oh yeah, but CSGO.
Like, look at how long CSGO existed before they had to release CSGO 2.
I'll stand on a hard line. I think if people who are big fans of CSGO are trash people. If you're fight me. If you're one of those YouTubers who like your entire content is you talk shit about other YouTubers while like doing CSGO ski gameplay and flipping your knife around, eat my balls.
But like they're like all of them make mistakes still.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Like Call of Duty's this is like what, the 20th year of Call of Duty this year?
20th?
And just like
Probably
just
I
like
don't know.
2
It's
years
really a
ago,
lot.
Is it got a lot? Yeah.
2 or 3 years ago, they released Vanguard,
Yeah.
which was not well received.
Nah.
You know,
They were
after
still one of the
10 years, they
best-selling games
released
of that year, though.
Sure. Lightfall was an exceptionally well-selling expansion. The problem was, I mean, it's probably their best-selling expansion ever.
23, by the way. 23.
But you
is
just
what
told me
I'm
that Lightfall was fine.
So Lightfall was okay. It was probably their second worst expansion, but it sold the best through pre-orders. The problem
oh yeah,
was
apparently that
it
was a big issue
retained-
with
it
with Last
retained-
Shape, as it didn't get pre-orders.
Well, Final Shape's not out yet,
Or Final
but
Shape.
its pre-orders are down. And that's because of the reception to Lightfall. Lightfall itself sold quite well, but it
Gotcha.
didn't retain players.
Hey, so this is kind
There's
of
no
a side
players
question here,
buying silver.
but I think you would have the answer because you've
Sure.
spent 2,700 hours or whatever in the thing. Is Final Shape? That sounds like probably the last expansion of Destiny 2, right? Just like going based on the name of it. Are they gearing up for a third one, maybe?
So we're almost positive there will not be a Destiny 3.
Oh.
The Final Shape is the end. The way that they first talked about everything, and it's shifted as they've through the last, because they announced Final Shape. Well, Lightfall was originally supposed to be the end of the Light and Dark saga when they announced Lightfall way back in 2019, 2019, because they announced Shadowkeep, Lightfall, and Witch Queen all at the same showcase. And Lightfall was supposed to be the last one, but then they cut Lightfall in half and made Lightfall and Final Shape, because they said that they couldn't tell the story that they wanted to tell totally in the amount of years they had. They needed an additional set of seasons and an expansion. But they've always said that it is the end of the Light and Darkness saga for Destiny 2. And they've always been quite vocal in saying that it's the end of this saga, not the end of Destiny 2. And after Final Shape launches, they said that the story of Final Shape and the story of the Light and Darkness saga will be totally encapsulated within the expansion. But they're also releasing a rebranded form of seasons called episodes throughout the year.
Okay. So wait, so does
So-
that mean that if I play the episodes, I'll be able to play the stuff that's vaulted and actually know what the hell's going on, or
I
is
have
this
no
a
idea.
different thing?
No, so basically there are seasons right now where they add story during the seasons and the seasons
Yeah.
get vaulted and it's terrible.
Sick.
Those are coming out, but they're going to be called episodes, and we don't know if they're going to be vaulted or not because they haven't told us. Like,
This is why I don't. This
And-
is why I can't play
and-
these. kind of
Yeah, the
games.
same
And-
for me. It's like
well,
I'm hearing all this, and it's like,
yeah,
Oh.
it's so like the reason why their numbers are so down is because even in franchise players, literally I cannot recommend this game to other people.
yeah,
Like, and that's a problem.
yeah. It's a lot to
Not
take
great.
on, man. It's a lot
That's
to
a
take on.
problem. Because like people can like there's a billion things to do in Final Fantasy 14, right?
Yeah.
But like
True.
all of the story is there, and it's like 200 hours of story, and that's
Right.
overwhelming for some people. But the
It's
fans will
probably even more
recommend
than
it
that.
because they find it incredible. You know
I
what
had
I
a
mean?
friend tell me to get through A Realm Reborn was art itself, and I feel like that's already like there's so many other expansions beyond that.
How much? What did he say? How much? And what? How
A
much
Realm
it was?
Reborn, he said, was like 100 hours
Oh,
to get
okay.
through the base, like the original, like
Yeah.
pre-fuckery game, and then also Realm Reborn was like 100 hours, is what he was saying.
Oh man,
So
yeah.
yeah, like the
Which I
thing
do
with
want to do someday.
the thing with Destiny is you can't do that, right? Like you cannot come in and play the story of Destiny 2 from start to finish. I wouldn't expect Destiny 1's content to be in it because you can go play that in Destiny 1.
Yeah.
But you cannot play Destiny 2's content from start to finish. You will be missing the first 2 years of the game in their entirety, and then you'll be missing every subsequent year after that. You'll be missing the stories that came with the seasons. And it's impossible for me as an enfranchised player to recommend the game to anyone,
Yeah. I get
which
it.
sucks. I can't even recommend players come back who were here before because there's shit that they've missed and they can't go back and play.
You're like, should
like-
I? Should I come back? Nah.
I tried to
Um,
watch a video to catch me up
the-
on the story, and it was incomprehensible. to
The
me.
only reason I'd recommend coming back to Destiny is if you don't give a damn about the story and you just want to play the raids.
And that's not my
Because
style.
the raids are excellent.
That's
They're so good.
That's the actual opposite of my style. completely. I cannot
Right.
get into a game that I'm not invested into the story of it
And
or into the lore or something. I have
Yeah.
to care.
and really the one thing we wanted them to do this year, and the one thing that I think that could still kind of turn things around and almost save them, is if they announce the end of the content vault and a plan to reimagine the vaulted story into the game. They've
Right.
kind of
Oh,
they're,
like
they're
a WoW
kind of
classic.
well, not even like a WoW classic, just like porting key story missions back into the game and making it so that like, because like there's a lot of story missions that are junk story missions that like nothing really happens in. It's like that's true in like most video games, right? Like they're basically filler story missions that are good and they might have like really good mechanics and things like that, but like story wise you don't really need them.
Let's see.
And the hope they're porting some missions back into the game. Like the first mission of Forsaken is actually back into the game right now, where you're going into the prison of elders to try and help Cade stop the prison riot that's going on, and it's basically the start of the expansion, Forsaken. But like that's the only one that's been brought back, and there's a lot of story missions that would need to be brought back, like a lot. Like we're talking like 2-3 dozen.
Yeah.
But listen,
Ugh.
But before you keep going, Crusader,
Sure.
because I can hear the passion in your voice.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we do have to wrap it up because
Okay.
we've actually gone over for a good while.
Yeah,
you
Umbra
all have
does still have to go to work tonight.
Yeah, you all have tuned into the Destiny Hour with our Crusader.
No, but it was an important and good conversation to have. though.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But listen, I do want to end it by basically saying, I hope these developers and these people that have lost their jobs, I hope they land on their feet. And, I hope that, Bungie rebounds as well, and maybe they can bring some of them back. I don't know. I just hope that these people who've all lost their jobs, and that speaks to the whole industry, because we've got a lot of people who've lost their jobs this year, where it's been such a great years for games, and then and the gaming itself has not been so great because of people who have brought us such joy have lost their jobs. It's sad to to really put that into into perspective. So I hope these good people land on their feet, and I'm sorry that all this happened to them, and it's unfortunate, whether it be greed or whatever else that played a part into it. I hope these people land on their feet.
If Jeff Keighley could talk about what happened to Kojima at the Game Awards,
Yeah,
back in the day, Jeff Keighley can talk about these layoffs at the Game Awards.
Wasn't there something else that he avoided talking about though, like last year or the year before?
He avoided talking about the Activision scandal.
That's what it was.
I understand wanting to avoid that to an extent because of the nature of it being a scandal.
right.
It's allegations and things like that. He may not want, but like people were definitively laid off.
Yeah.
This was definitively one of the best years in video games. Yeah, it's like 6,000. It's definitively one of the best years in video games for releases. Things don't line up. Like that's not like there's no hearsay there. You know what I mean? Like it all facts, all just things you can observe.
Mm-hmm.
He should say something this year.
I feel like he won't, and I feel like the same reason for that controversy right there is why I think like a game like Hogwarts will get snubbed. It's because the controversy behind it that they won't quite address.
I think it'll get snubbed because it wasn't critically it was well received, but it wasn't.
Wasn't it? It wasn't like a.
It was like an 84 or 85. Like in a normal year, right? You'd be right to think it would get nominated. This year we've had like 7 games be like 90s. Like it's like this is such a weird year to think about games because like there's so many games that would normally get nominated that just won't this year because like there's other games that exist. Like it's insane.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess with that, we'll close it out for tonight, guys. I want to thank you all in the chat for being here. Again, if you all have not done so, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button before you leave out. And I guess while you all are there and saluting us and saying goodbye to us, tell us what you guys are going to be playing this week. And I want to thank my good brother Crusader for joining us tonight. Crusader, thank you for joining us. Tell the good people where they can find you and what you will be up to, and of course the podcast that you're on.
Yeah, you can find me at Crusader3456 on basically all social media. I'm most active on Twitter or X or whatever the hell Elon wants to call it these days. Mm-hmm. Same. It's my gamer tag on everything. If you want to follow me on any of those, it's Crusader3456. TXR podcast Sunday nights at 9:00. This week you'll probably get to hear me go real loud, real angry about the Bungie stuff. Yeah. Because there's angry Crusader hour occasionally happens when I get real mad about things. And this will be one. I will be playing Alan Wake 2, and then I'm not really sure what I'm going to play next. It might be Singularity on my 360.
Nice.
Yeah.
The trek to play the old games continues.
Oh, yeah, always.
Absolutely.
Games are games. I don't care if they're new or old.
There you go. Yeah, well, thank you again for joining us, brother.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, anytime. And, of course, Daniel McG. Brother, where can everybody find you and what will you be up to? And, of course, what other podcasts are you a part of that you might want to mention?
So you can find me on Xbox Factor Podcast every Tuesday morning at 11 a.m. my time, Central Time. Or you can find me on Twitter at Daniel J. McG. I'm on also other social medias, but I don't post there, so follow me at your own risk. Or on my personal YouTube channel of Daniel McG. Working on a lot of writing, getting a lot of stuff done, so hopefully we're going to get a lot of content up on there for you guys soon. So please subscribe.
There you go.
That's all I got. I'm also going to be playing Alan Wake. I don't know. I'm going to be playing Alan Wake probably for the rest of the week, and then also, I don't know, maybe Liza P if I run out. I don't know.
Nice.
Let's go.
You're not short on options. That much is certain.
I've 15 games installed right now.
Yeah. See, yeah. And I'm with you there. Like for me, I think this week, I'm going to finish up Spider-Man 2 again, just to get rid of not get rid of it. That doesn't sound right. To finish it up, the second playthrough. And I'm going to probably play some Halo. I think I'm at level 41 maybe in the Battle Pass. So only got like 9 more levels to go for the 50 level Battle Pass. It's been a really good season. I want to likely play some of that over the weekend with some friends. Actually, I contacted a few people who haven't played with us lately and trying to see if they'll jump in. Some big names too. I'll see if they join in. But yeah, going to play some of that. I want to give a shout out to that blue number, Holly, who's a part of the Xbox Infinite podcast. She gifted me Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3.
Oh,
Yeah. And I don't really play those. From what I told you, I played the
well,
campaign.
you better play this one.
Now I have to. so I looked at the gigabytes. By the way, this thing is 240 something gigabytes. I'm like, what the
Jesus
hell?
It's modular, so like once you're done with the campaign, you can uninstall the campaign.
Yeah, that's true because it's got that like the hub thing going, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's similar to MCC in that way, where like MCC you can install like each individual campaign and each individual multiplayer.
Yeah.
That's kind of the concept they're going for here.
Yeah, it's just, man, that's a lot to put on this damn hard
Yeah.
drive though. But yeah. No, yeah, that is cool. At least you can delete that. Like for me, it's always been the campaign I've always cared about with Call of Duty. Never really cared for their multiplayer. However, I did try the beta that played it with Pete and Holly. And I think Gray, and I think Boba Fett as well. And we had a blast, man. I actually enjoyed it. It's been years since I actually got into their multiplayer, and I enjoyed it a lot. So I will give it a try, give it the old college try, as they say. And thank you, Holly, for that, for gifting me that. And I got to get her something back, maybe something for Christmas or something like that, because I appreciate that. Actually, I owe my boy Drawing TJ something too. He actually hooked me up with the 2019 game. Now that I'm thinking about it, I told him I would. I know he's probably like, you never did. Anyway, so yeah. But of course, you guys know you can find me on Twitter, Infinite Umbra, or Umbra Infinite on Twitter, X Twitter, or whatever it is. And of course, Twixter. And Tuesdays, of course, I also be there on Xbox Factor with myself, Danny, C Money, and Boom at 12 o'clock Eastern, 11 o'clock our time, of course. And tomorrow on Xbox Infinite podcast, myself, Riskit, Jedi Knight Peter, and that blue number Holly. So if you guys are around, come by and kick it with us, 8 o'clock Eastern. And actually time, well, no, that's next week. So time will go back or forward, right? Next week, it'll go back next week. So we'll be moving up to 7 o'clock Eastern next week. So, but this week, 8 o'clock Eastern, come by and say hi to us, guys. And we appreciate you as always. And we will get out of here. We will talk with you guys later. You all have a good night, day, whatever time it is for you. Thank you. Later, guys.
See you.